We're live. All right then, guys. Awesome. How you doing?
All right.
Good, guys.
Good. So, I'm going to introduce you this time. I don't usually do it, do I? I've noticed this. I just say we're live and then we carry on. So, I mean, I know everyone knows you lot by now, but I'm not got anything funny written down, by the way. I'm just going to introduce you normally. All right. So, I'm going to go from how I've got the squares here. So, I've got Mr. Mark Cloer. How cool is Mr. Mark Cloer? I mean, you know what I mean? What can you say?
Look at that team.
Yeah. Brian's back. Bryan Lee, how you doing, mate?
What's up, Brian?
What was that?
I think he's got a delay or something.
Hey, I'm great. How are you?
All right.
Whoa, that is a delay and a half. That
was, wasn't it?
Yeah. Right. We got Jam, obviously. Jam's here again. How you doing, mate?
Hello, everyone. Good.
We got Jonathan Johnson of the metal band Deny the Fallen. How you doing, mate? You okay?
Good.
And of course, we've got Darren, the one and only Darren O Sullivan from the YouTube channel Sleeve Saturday. How you doing, mate?
Why is it no matter what time we come on at or no matter what stream we're doing, I'm always the last square?
I don't know. It's good not to be square, isn't it?
Yeah. We know something about that, don't we?
Yeah, that's right. So I was actually thinking, obviously, I'm a big fan of other YouTube channels. One of them is Sea of Tranquility, as you know. I like that channel a lot. And he calls it when he gets all these group of men together. He calls them Hudson Valley Squares. I don't know if you've noticed this.
Yeah.
So I was thinking we do need something like that. So I can call you guys something. So I was thinking of a few things. So first of all, I thought Iridium Idiots, but I thought no, that's terrible. Iridium Imbeciles was the next one, but I thought no, because you guys are integral to the show, obviously. So I've called you Iridium Indispensable. How's that? And that means you are essential to the channel. I can't lose you. So that's nice, isn't it? You're the indispensables. How's that?
That's better,
right, isn't it?
Yeah, indispensable.
I like the Iridians.
Yeah, what Iridium Idiots? The Iridium Idiots. And obviously, Dominic will be included in that, but he don't come on here much. But he's on our other shows. He'll be included in all you idiots. So one thing before we carry on with 1985, I just want to say thank you to Darren, who got challenged, obviously, with doing Operation Mindcrime, a review on his channel, and everyone should check that out if you haven't already, because it was great and it was so intriguing. I think Mark wants to say thanks as well for doing it, because it's so intriguing listening to you doing that. For people that have lived with that album for 30 odd years and someone to hear it for the first time is quite amazing. So thanks for that, mate.
I appreciate that, mate. That's really kind. Nice one. Look, the gauntlet was laid down. Took me a little while, but I listened to it a couple of times initially, started pulling together production a little bit early, and then I left it for a month or two because I needed to just keep immersing myself in it, listening to it. Because you can't just throw it up. But I'm glad you did, because it's a great album.
Someone's playing music. I don't know who that was. How's your delay, Brian?
Darren, I'm gonna give you a fist bump from about 3,800 miles away for that one.
Yeah, man.
It was well worth the wait. You taught me things about the concept that I have never even considered in 33 years of listening to it. And anybody that's a fan of Operation Mindcrime, if you hadn't already seen it, go to Darren's channel, Sleeve Saturday, and watch that review, because it's
appreciate that.
Well worth the time it took him to do it.
Yeah,
Appreciate that, man. It's the best review I've ever heard on it, as far as like covering the concept. Because I mean, the music speaks for itself. Like you said, any of those songs would stand on their own as great, metal songs. But the concept makes it so intriguing, and the fact that you went into heavy detail on that, I thought was really impressive.
Yeah, appreciate it, guys. You're great. You get me tearing up.
We love you, man.
I was getting a little bit frustrated about how long it was taking, but you can understand. Mark said this before you came on. You could see how it took so long, the detail you go into with it, and the editing, and amazing job, man. Absolutely amazing.
Appreciate it, lads. Really do. Thanks a million. Thank you.
Okay, Brian, have you still got a delay? How are you doing?
I'm all right.
He's
I'm sorry, the last show was
he's
sorry I missed
got a
the
new
last
setup
show,
there. He's
but
trying to work the bugs out of.
sounds
Brian,
like I'm having a lot of problems here.
Yeah, Brian, if you can hear me, you might be better off logging off and logging back in again because you've got such a delay that you're literally 30 seconds behind.
And I'm
You
the one
might
with
Log
the
off.
Wi-Fi.
hear that in a minute. Just before we start on the albums, Delina's on here. She's saying, "Hey, you all." Dommy, hey guys, good to see you all. Born distracted. Is Lee's cat going to sing for us today? Thank you very much. Hopefully not. And Delina again. Darren's reviews are amazing. There's more fans than you think, Darren.
Well, there you go. Delina and Dommy, you can't get two better guests on the live stream. To be fair.
Yeah, great. That's absolutely great. And they're here again. That's cool. So Brian's here. Let's try and get him in again. Let's see what it's like now.
Hey, it moved you over a spot, Darren.
Well, Brian, you look a lot clearer for a start. Can you hear me?
Well, that's good.
Oh, guys.
Not quite as
I'm
long.
sorry, because I'm not the best to look at.
Right, no worries, mate. We'll see how you get on. You're a bit blurry than you was when you.
I don't know what the deal is. I'm gonna log off and I'm gonna reset my router and modem.
Okay. All right. No worries, mate. Okay. Yeah.
I don't know what the deal is. It seems like everybody's voices are running together and get digitized. So I'm gonna log off and go reset my router and modem. I'll be back.
Okay. Right. He's gone. He's gone for a little while. Jilly Willy, cut your hair, Lee. Can't see your Maiden poster. That's my next door neighbour. Look at my. Do you like my little mate? Do you like my Iron Maiden trooper?
Nice.
Yeah, looks good. Looks good.
Next door neighbour gave me that, Gary. So thanks for that. That's cool. Okay, right. 1985, guys. We're gonna have to do without Brian for a little while. So, if anyone doesn't know, watches the show, what we do is we go away and vote for our favourite albums from that year. So we've all gone away, done that. I've had them sent to me, and any that match. So if there's any more than one vote for them, we add them to the list. There's 16 albums actually we've got to speak about. So what we do, we go through the 2 votes first, and we build it up until the main album comes on at the end of that. And let me tell you now, not all of us voted for the main album, but all of us apart from one person did on both of the main albums. So that's quite cool. 1985, man. I mean, 1986 was better, but 85 was such a good year as well. What a brilliant year for music. Outstanding year. The first album we're going to speak about from 85, me and Jan voted for, and that's Anthrax, Spreading the Disease. So, Jan, go ahead with this, mate. Tell us a little bit about this album and I'll chip in.
Okay. Anthrax second album, Spreading Disease. First with Joe Belladonna on vocals, released in October of 85, with what you call the classic lineup now, with let's say Joey's first on vocals after the first singer. I can't remember, Neil Turbin was it? I think the first vocalist on the first album. Yeah, and so Stan Spitz got in, Frank Bello, Charlie Benanti. And it's probably, even though the first album had Metal Thrashing Mad on it, it wasn't really, more of a heavy metal album, if you like. It was quite fast in places, but this is more when they go into proper sort of thrash metal, I'd say. It's not quite as extreme as Among the Living, but it's obviously getting that way, and it's just a very, very good album. I know we struggled to get it over in England for some reason, because in those days you didn't know about bands, discographies, etc. And we had Among the Living, we had State to Euphoria, and we even had the first album, but you just couldn't find this anywhere. I had to go all the way to London to get it in the famous record shop called Shades. That's where I had to get it at the end. So, and that's it. There's some great songs in there. Obviously, Madhouse, Medusa, Under Dangerous, and stuff like that. And it's very, very good thrash album. Probably not as good as Among the Living, but very good still.
Well, that's our first disagreement of the night, as you know. So, for me, that's my favourite Anthrax album. Plus, actually, the two new ones. I think the two new ones are absolutely For All Kings and is it We Worship Music or Worship Music?
Yeah, Worship Music.
And I love Spreading Disease. I'll tell you why, because I think that it was more, even though it went more thrashier than Fistful of Metal. I think it's Fistful of Metal, wasn't it? It was still more metal. It still didn't have that. It still didn't quite go. Sort of the next album went a bit punky, didn't it? And this was proper metal for me. And Belladonna, I think, is his best vocal performance on any of the records for me.
Yeah, very good.
Absolutely brilliant. Screaming to the Heavens, just absolutely fantastic performance by Joey Belladonna. Still, the production was a bit, but it always was for Anthrax. I think Jonathan's mentioned the production for Anthrax. It's sort of meant to be that way, a bit rough around the edges. Although I think it was actually better than Among the Living. That was even more rough around the edges, but on purpose, I think. But
I think they all sound a little bit tinny for me.
Definitely, yeah, not enough bass, but I think that was part of it. I think, like Jonathan said, but man, I love that album. Absolutely fantastic. I'm so glad you chose it.
Great album cover.
Yeah, better than A Fistful of Metal.
That's just comedy.
Oh man, what that all about? So Red Devils loves a bit of Anthrax. Anthrax, yes. See Darren's face of envy when Jam shows the original vinyl sleeve. Yeah, he gets a bit of envious there. He does get a bit envious. Oh, by the way, before we carry on,
I was going to mention it. I was going to ask, where are these T-shirts available? Can we buy one? What's the crack? What's going on
Mark apparently is going to buy you one if you want one. So
if any of you guys want one, send me your size and your address. I'll make sure you get one.
Oh, thank you.
And Dom too, if he's watching.
Cool. Very cool. Wait a minute, just 1 second, just because that's cool. You got the T-shirts and stuff, but did you design that, Mark? Did you kind of just put a little bit of design into that yourself, or?
Between my stints in the gun business, I used to do a little bit of graphic design, sign work, and anyway, I found the cat picture while I was looking for something else on the internet, and I said, that kind of looks like Vamp, and then just a light bulb went off over my head, and I started playing around. Anyway, that's how it.
Very cool. Very cool.
And he got me a travel flask as well. So with the same thing on it. I mean, listen, Mark. I mean, he wasn't, but he definitely is now my favourite guest. So I mean, that's all it takes is some of you to send me some stuff, and then you'll also be my favourite.
It wasn't intended as a bribe, so.
No, I love it. Cheers for that, mate. I love it.
Wait a minute. Hold on a second. What more do you want? We do about 40 hours a week research for your channel. What more do you want?
Like I said, you're indispensable. So there you go. Thank you very much. I don't know what's happening with Brian. He's obviously having problems.
Yeah, he gets it worked out.
He was clear as day before it all started up. He was.
I don't think it's the last we see.
He's got a whole new setup, and I don't know what his problem is, but he's trying to work the bugs out of it. So hopefully he'll figure it out. Kind of having the same problem Jam had that time before.
Yeah. When I was upside down and sideways, and didn't make it at all.
Oh, look at that. Born Distracted. Lee inspires creativity. I'll tell you what, I've even got a fan there. How about that? You ain't the only one, Darren.
It's about time.
Okay, well, that Anthrax album, by the way, is fantastic. These albums are all just 2 votes, by the way. So the next one was voted by 2 people. We're doing all the 2 votes first. Jam, yet again, has voted for this. And Darren.
I thought it was you. I thought it was you, Lee. I thought you voted for this.
See, this is good because I don't tell you.
I voted for Anthrax too.
No, you didn't. I double checked Anthrax actually, Jonathan, because I was surprised you didn't do it.
That must have been a mental slip on my part.
Yeah, I know you like a bit of Anthrax. Yeah, I mean, there's a couple that I've been asking a couple of questions of the guys. I was surprised they didn't vote for a few of them, like Jam especially. I thought, but he said, yeah, I like it, but not that much. So, will you have a little couple of lines on Anthrax then, Jonathan, before we move on? You like that bit of that album?
I mean, it's a classic album. I mean, what can you say? It's the original, what you consider to be the classic lineup of that band. Obviously, my critique would be production. The production was a bit thin, but the earlier Anthrax records were that way. They were just thin. production wise. I think they were trying to keep that New York kind of punky vibe, and it didn't serve the music as well as it could have. But then again, in that time period, everything was thin. It was very odd to have a sonically, full sounding album in that era of metal. It's just, there wasn't a whole lot of low end in anything.
Yeah, it's a great. I mean, it blew me away. It blew me away there. I remember seeing a live video of them as well on that tour, and they was amazing live as well. It was it was mental. Like people like at that time, people just diving off the stage constantly. It was
they created the idea of the mosh pit.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
that was it.
All their terms, wasn't it? Mosh pit.
Definitely. Okay, well, the next album I'm going to let, as Jam, we spoke about that one, Jam, I'm going to let Darren kick off on this. This is Magnum. This was on Storyteller's Night, and this was brought out on the 13th of May on FM Polydor. Go on then, mate.
We've talked, haven't we talked about Magnum a good few times on this channel? We've talked to them from, I think at least a couple of us brought it up on the Ballads show, to even the album sleeve cover show. A band that have been around since '72, but I think this was kind of their break. This is where they kind of, Jam, you might know as well, but this is where they kind of started to see a little bit of success, even though what was the name of the record label you just mentioned they were on, Lee? I think it was a smaller record label, wasn't it?
Well, it says on Wiki, which is always right, obviously, FM Polydor.
Polydor, yeah.
So clearly they've been around since '72. They've made a few records. They're into their fifth one and hit a slump. But I think this album actually weirdly then got them a little bit of mainstream success, and they went on from there. Bob Catley's vocals, I've said it a number of times on this channel, just so underappreciated, that guy. Like, just absolutely. Oh, we've got Bryan back. Look at it.
All right, Bryan?
I hope so.
So far.
At the moment, you're answering straight away, so it's all right at the moment, mate. So there you go. Okay.
You don't look like a digital zombie either.
No, not at the moment, so you're right.
I probably look better as a digital zombie.
Go ahead, Darren.
Well, the t-shirt and the hat as always, smashing it. Love it.
Oh, yeah.
Incredible. Bob Catley's vocals, I was just saying there, that man is just so underappreciated in this kind of genre. Doesn't get talked about enough. You know the way you can just rattle off rock star names and people know. No, you could say the word Bob Catley and nobody knows who this guy is, but you certainly would have heard his song, even if it's only in your kind of peripheral vision a little bit. But the lead single from this, Just Like an Arrow. Oh, man, I think Dommy's in the chat. I think she's a fan of this band as well. Just Like an Arrow. What an absolute belter of a tune. Like, just probably didn't get a lot of radio play at the time, but it has its own music video. Go off and check it. Anyway, I'll name a couple of other quick songs from it. Track 4, Before First Light, and track 8, Steal Your Heart. If you want to listen to a couple of deep tracks, go into them. I'll ask one thing though, and I'll put it to Jam. Jam, is this AOR or is this what is this?
Well, I mean, I'm not, as you know, I'm not really actually a fan of AOR, but I just call it British rock. Really, it's obviously got a lot of keyboards in it and stuff, hasn't it? But I suppose you could call it that. But they've definitely got a Britishness to them, although they're obviously going for sort of stadium rock filling vibes, aren't they? But I just call it British rock. But yeah, definitely.
I've got to say, what a great album cover. You haven't got that one on you, have you? Yeah?
Oh, actually, I have. I'll just go in. Have you got that, Jam? Because
I haven't got it. I've got nowhere to put it up now.
I had it there, Lee, as well. The sleeve, the sleeve cover of that is just—it's like kind of it's like a 19th century kind of tavern or like bar, if you want. And it's like it looks like kind of. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like goblins sitting around a table, and then a guy with like a hooded figure with like his back to us, and there's a big raging fire in the background, and it's like on a storyteller's night. He's clearly telling a story to all of these. The goblins almost reminded me. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Labyrinth with David Bowie. It reminded me of that kind of look. So very cool sleeve cover. But as we know, said it already, Magnum every time smashed it, particularly in the 80s with their sleeve covers, no doubt about it.
Yeah, I mean, that song, Just Like an Arrow, was on me. Was on our All Killer list. It was in my number 2 track, I think it was. It's great. As you say, the album covers are brilliant. I think my mate Russ said it's Rodney Matthews is the artist. He did quite a few album covers for them. So I think the album after this was quite a good cover as well. Can't remember what it's called.
Vigilante.
That's it. Yeah, that's not the one with the unicorn on, is it? Because that's rubbish.
It is.
No,
I like that. John, we were going so well. Me and you were agreeing on something.
Well,
that
Tommy,
that was on Darren's favorite album covers.
yeah, it was.
Yeah,
It was.
I love it.
The pink unicorn was. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it when you just said that. I was there. John likes that album cover. No way.
Well, Dommy agrees about the tune, though, Darren.
Yeah.
So it's great.
Yeah, it's a great song.
No, that's cool. Everything done on that, guys, on the Magnum one? You all right with that?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm good on
I
that.
mean, they're not really a band I particularly would normally listen to, but now one I've listened to, I've gone back to them. I didn't listen to it in '85. I got into them later, and then I went back to this album. So it's good to do stuff like that.
That's cool. I'll say one last thing, Lee. Sorry, just I thought you would have voted for that album. I thought you liked a bit of Magnum.
I don't mind it. I don't think when I'm doing these voting for these, I'm really thinking of the albums that really smash it out of the park for me. I mean, I can name like 30 albums, but I want to name the top albums that I really got into. You know, just another thing on Bob Catley. He does quite a bit of guesting on a band called Avantasia. If you haven't heard of them, they're sort of like what's that Siberian Orchestra thing? It's a bit like that. They're
Siberian Orchestra. Yeah.
Trans-Siberian Orchestra, and Avantasia are very symphonic and big epic production albums, and Bob Catley guests on quite a lot of the songs on there, so he does some great vocals on some of them albums, just to let you know. Anyway, we're moving on to the next number 2, and this was released on June the 12th on Combat Records. A bit of thrash again, so we're going to go Megadeth, Killing Is My Business, and Business Is Good.
Yeah.
Got the album cover there. We're going to let Jonathan kick us off on this one.
Oh, man, it's obviously it's their debut, isn't it? That's their debut album.
Yeah.
And that's where Dave Mustaine was letting out all of his aggression from getting the boot from Metallica. I think he was making his point. And I mean, musically, the thing about Megadeth is just instrumentally just a flawless group. No matter what their lineup was, they were able to capture this. It was almost progressive, but it wasn't. It was weird because they had this weird mix of vibes. I mean, Mustaine had the ability to pull these riffs out that had like a punky edge to them, but were totally like thrashy and yet almost progressive. And it made them unique in the space of thrash music, to where I think a lot of, for myself, when I first got introduced to Megadeth, I was totally like a Sunset Strip metal guy, all the bands coming out of LA at the time and stuff. And then, here's Megadeth, and what do you do with that? But I hear this guy playing guitar and I'm like, oh my God, these riffs, what is this that I'm hearing, and I think this was the record that did that for me. It was like, there were a few albums that came out in this year that kind of did that for me, that turned me into a true metalhead in every sense of the word. Because before that, I was kind of what you would consider the glam metal or the pop metal, guy, the Sunset Strip metal guy, up until that point. And then
I had a perm as well at that point. So, I was
I need fucking pictures of that.
Yeah,
I need pictures of that. Jesus
well, then the perm turned into a mullet with a perm.
So just for the record, you see what perms do.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Don't ever get a perm, right?
Later on with the mullet, I was going for the Joe Elliott look. See,
that's another excuse not to get a mullet.
Yeah.
Lee, did you say it was you had a mullet that was a perm at the back and the front?
No, just the back, mate. When they used to, you would notice, Darren. I think you're too young. They used to pull the hair through the holes in the hat. The rubber hat.
Yeah.
I need pictures of that.
Especially if your hair was real long, man. They were pulling for days. But like back to the Megadeth thing, this. I mean, I don't think I realized till years later how much impact Mustaine had on Metallica early on.
Mm-hmm.
What I would consider to be, Metallica's masterful records. Master of Puppets, Ride the Lightning, even a bit into the Black Album. You can still feel the effect, the impact of Mustaine on Hetfield's riffing, and I think after that point, the true James Hetfield started bleeding out everywhere, which is, the kind of more of those bluesy riffs and stuff. And even when he's attempted to go back to being that heavy thrashy guy, he's still not getting, that early sound.
There's still something missing, isn't there? There's still something. Even though they're trying, I think they're really trying out their artists on those last couple of albums, but there's something missing. You're totally right.
It's that Mustaine, Cliff Burton element, I think, is missing, and that kind of lingered for a few years after their absence. And then Dave Mustaine comes out with this, with Megadeth, and for his weaknesses as a vocalist, his prowess as an instrumentalist shows through on every Megadeth record. Yeah. And honestly, I think it makes up for some of his weaknesses as a vocalist. But I think this was one of the albums that literally kicked me towards heavier music, because I was kind of in the vein of more, the more mainstream arena rock type of music and stuff. And then just as a guitar player, when you hear a heavy riff and a riff that just grabs you and just like holds you like that, that makes you want to play like that. So even though I played more of the arena rock style for years before I went into the heavy end of the pool, that stuff was building, that pressure was building, because as a guitar player, you want to play that heavy, So I think that was one of the early things that kind of grabbed me into heavier music.
The thing is, at least Metallica made a bit of a, they sort of had their own back when they done some Anger. At least that was a good album, wasn't it? Anyway, Brian.
Put down the beer, Lee. Put down the
beer. Anyway, Brian also voted for Megadeth.
I just thought it was a fabulous album. Even the These Boots cover that Dave Mustaine kind of altered the lyrics with, and got into trouble after that because it wasn't on that, the remastered albums back until 2002. But when I first heard it, and I found out, this was actually These Boots that was sang by Nancy Sinatra, I was kind of freaked out by it. But, well, yeah, that could work. And but it was just great. Like Jonathan said, his influence with Metallica went a long way. And when he formed Megadeth with Dave Ellefson, he just plowed on his own and created his own path and kind of separated himself a little bit from it. But the album, Killing Is My Business, based on Punisher, comic book character, a paid assassin, and what is it? The Last Rites and Love to Death. And Love to Death was written about his girlfriend at the time. So great album, and listen to it cover to cover before all this, and back to you.
Cool. We got Red Devils actually says, Jonathan, that's 100% right about Megadeth. Heard them first in 92, 93, though, like a bit of a latecomer to it, but totally right about the way, the way they influenced people. Born Distracted has said, did England have their own version of the Sunset Strip? Well, they didn't really. We sort of, with me, I love the music coming out of Sunset Strip, but there wasn't anyone I knew into metal who dressed like that, really, apart from me with my perm, obviously. But everyone was just, in England, were always denim, jeans, denim jacket or leather jacket. We were very, we were more Maiden, that sort of thing, and following, we looked like Iron Maiden, basically, apart from when they wore the tight pants. But it was just jeans, wasn't it? Jeans and trainers and T-shirts.
Yeah, jeans and trainers, T-shirt, trainer boots. White boots. Yeah,
exactly. That's all it was, mate. So, yeah, definitely. But no, a great time.
What's quite interesting about that? Red Devils is a good pal of mine. I never knew he was into Megadeth. Never knew that until this moment. I never knew that. So there you go.
At least Darren's bringing back the Sunset Strip with our Eve dresses now. That's a good thing, isn't it?
On a side note, I need to see Jam in a pair of fucking white boots walking up the street.
It'd be better if we had the Sunset Strip gear on, mate. And that'd be even better. Anyway, the next album, if we're finished with that, is also voted for by Brian and Jonathan. Bit of a controversial one, this at the time. Well, it probably is now, more controversial now than it was back then. Released August the 30th, S.O.D, Stormtroopers of Death. Speak English or Die. I don't know if I'm going to get cut off saying that or what. I don't know. YouTube will probably just all of a sudden just cut us off. But Speak English or Die was the album. Tell us a little bit about that then, Brian.
Well, from what I understand, that Anthrax had just got finished recording an album, and they had a lot of studio time left over. So Scott Ian got a bunch of friends together and produced and, wrote and recorded this album in a week. Got a lot of short songs, like 5 and 6 seconds. What is it? What's the name of that song? The Ballad of Jimi Hendrix. It starts out playing a Jimi Hendrix song and it says Jimi Hendrix is dead. That's about it. It's 6 seconds long. And another one called Hey Gordy is 7 seconds long, but I think it's written mostly as a parody because some of the songs are actually really funny. Some of them are heavy, like Milk. The song Milk starts out with a bass solo, and the riff after it is really heavy. And I mean, I enjoyed that, but they didn't expand on it. I wish they could have put a song behind it. But Speak English or Die, back in the 80s when Cold War was going on and troubles in the Middle East are starting. So I believe this is where all it came from. And I believe Scott Ian said, this was a parody even written back then. But I really enjoyed it. One of my favorites from back then. I wouldn't take it to the deserted island, but I still enjoy listening to it.
Jonathan, you voted for this one as well, mate?
Yeah, I remember back to visiting one of my teenage friends' house. His name is David Adams, and he was like a huge punk rocker, kind of like he was an early thrash head, and I was not at all. And I remember him throwing this on, like literally he had it. He started playing it, and I'm like, what the hell am I listening to? I mean, it was just like, what is this? Because like you said, there's like 5-second songs and stuff, and I'm just like, this goes completely against all conventional wisdom. But honestly, it won me over because like some of the riffs on that album, it's kind of like one layer deep. It's not a very deep record.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of parody-ish. But some of those riffs are just iconic. I mean, it's just like these riffs that you can't escape them. And back then, there wasn't a whole lot of that. It was before the heavy riff thing became the dominant force in metal. And I just remember those riffs sticking with me. And I think this album as well was one of the cracks in the dam for me, pushing me more over the edge into the heavier side of metal. Just Scott Ian is such a killer riff writer, and it drove me as a player more towards trying to find these heavy groove rhythms, that the riff itself speaks. If you can get people singing the riff, you've automatically hooked them into the song, and then everything else is window dressing on top of it. And that is something that Scott Ian's always been masterful at, just getting people hooked on the riff. And this was so irreverent and comical and so just out of left field. It caught me off guard. And I never remember that night sitting there listening to it in my friend's house going, what the crap is this that I'm listening to? But yeah, it stuck with me all these years as literally being one of those things that influenced me more towards the heavy riffing side of metal.
Yeah. No, I mean, I remember it coming out. I remember because I was avid Kerrang reader. I used to get it delivered to my house every week. When like I've said it loads of times before, when Kerrang was actually a good magazine, and I remember reading about it, and the reviews were really good for it. But I was never into that. I was like you, Jonathan. I was into that Sunset Strip thing.
Mm-hmm.
Never really got into this sort of stuff. So even the Anthrax album we spoke about earlier, that was later on for me. And I haven't really heard much of the Speak English or Die album, but it has gained a huge cult status now. I mean, like many albums have now. You know what I mean? People look back on it. You didn't vote for this one, did you, Jan?
No, it's a strange one because I like my punk metal and like punk and I like metal, and I like heavier stuff as well. And it's sort of album I probably would like. And just coincidentally, I did actually listen to it for the first time about 3 weeks ago. So, and it's something I probably would like, but obviously not knowing it, I couldn't vote for it today. But it's probably something I probably do need to listen to. I think there's a follow-up album as well, which come out a bit later.
Yes, there is.
So I need to listen to them. So yes, I'm sure they're very good, but I couldn't vote.
Yeah, the follow-up album is you can speak whatever language you like. We can let you in the country.
Yeah.
As long as...
I think it was called Inclusion.
Yeah, Inclusion. Everyone's welcome. The follow-up album's called. Anyway,
I think it's actually a piss take of Number of the Beast cover, isn't it? I think the second album. I think it's got like a Number of the Beast type of thing.
I only remember the first one, which is with the skull.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it does look like Eddie though. The face of the skull of the first one. Metal Crusaders on. He's the guy. He's watching. He's a huge Hammerfall fan. He always asks for Hammerfall songs for me to react to. He's on watching. Red Devils, Kerrang! Back in the day. Yeah, back in the day it was. Not anymore, I'm afraid. Because I'm such a tight bastard. I used to go into the shops when I didn't want to pay for it anymore. I used to just let's have a look at the reviews. No, I mean I just go in there and look at the reviews.
When was the last time you ever bought a Kerrang! Magazine? Because you say a lot that it's shit now. When was the last time you bought it?
Probably about 20 years ago.
Brilliant.
But I go into the shops and pull it out and look at it, and it's all just, well, I mean, it's what people want to hear, but it's just all extreme metal. It's brutal death metal, technical death metal, and all that, and it's just not something I'm into. But that's what it's turned into now. It's just, it's one of those things. But back in the day, obviously, when the Sunset Strip was kicking it, that was what it was all full of. That, that's why I liked it, I suppose. So just things move on. But old men like me, just can't get into it. Anyway, the next one, me and Jonathan voted for, and I nearly didn't vote for this. I was close. It's Dio, Sacred Heart, released on 13th of August on Warner Brothers. So I'll kick off on this one, if that's all right, Jonathan. So the reason I nearly didn't vote for it is because it was a massive drop down for me from The Last in Line, or the first two albums.
I agree.
But it played a huge part of my life. I think I rated it as much as the first two albums when I was young. I loved it. I fell in love with it. And it was huge for me. But over time, compared to those first two albums, I can see many faults in it. And like me and Mark have spoken about this album as well. And but I still love it enough to include it on this list. There's a few songs that are really poor. Shoot Shoot being probably one of the worst Dio songs he's ever written. But look at some of the songs on it, though. You've got King of Rock and Roll, which is an amazing opener. The actual title track, Sacred Heart, is a brilliant song. I love the more commercial songs on it as well. Some of those Rock and Roll Children, I love that song. But there was nothing about Ronnie that was bad about this. Obviously, his voice was in top notch form. Vivian Campbell, not so much. I think there was a lot of problems there with Dio and Vivian Campbell, and I think you can hear that. And even when Vivian left the band, Dio mentioned that he didn't get the best out of Vivian. Well, when you're paying him fuck all for playing the guitar, you're not going to get the best out of the guitarist, are you?
I really like Vivian Campbell, man.
Oh, me too.
Yeah. Same. I mean, if you actually listen though, Darren, I'm not sure if you've heard the first two Dio albums.
No,
but you would be amazed at the guitar work. But compared to what he has to do now in Def Leppard, and he must be so restrained to what he can actually do. I mean, I've seen them play live, Def Leppard, and they was amazing. They played the whole Hysteria album. They were all brilliant in the band, but the stuff that he played back in 80, 82, 83, compared to what he does now, he must be pulling his hair out because he was just some of the most amazing guitaring I've ever heard in my life.
Oh, yeah, he's great.
But,
well, it's a paycheck, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, apparently they didn't want to pay him. They gave him like £100 a week or whatever. You know?
No, sorry. You don't get me. I mean, it's a paycheck now with Leopard.
Oh, for sure. Oh yeah, for
Big
sure.
one.
I mean, look, I can't blame him for doing what he's done. But yeah, exactly. There was a lot of bad blood between him and Dio, and there's been some bad interviews, some really horrible interviews between both. To tell you the truth, Dio wishing he'd die and all sorts of stuff like that. You know, wishing he'd dead. I mean, it ain't good, you know. But now that he's dead, Vivian Campbell has said what a great guy he is. It's a typical thing, isn't it? When someone dies, they're the best person. It's just like what? But
You can't get away talking bad about the dead. That's the problem.
no, you know exactly. But yeah, I mean, you're nodding, Jonathan. Like this album, you're agreeing with me. Not quite as good, still good enough to be on this list.
Oh yeah. I mean, everything you said. I'll echo it. The only reason that I would have picked it is because of Vivian Campbell, because he still was there, and Vivian Campbell's B game is better than most guys of that era's A game.
Yeah.
So yeah. I gotta give it the thumbs up because of his playing, and also, I mean, what can you say? I mean, Dio's voice. I mean, we've got some iconic songs on there with quite literally maybe the top 3 most iconic metal singers of all time singing on it. I mean, how can you not pick it, right? Yeah. And but it definitely isn't the best Dio record, you know, not at all. But
no,
you know, but their B effort was better than a lot of bands' A effort. So you gotta give it the vote because of that. But yeah, I mean, I've heard all those stories, and I actually had the opportunity to be in an in-store appearance with Vivian Campbell in the States one time, and it was just only like 15 people there, and he was telling stories about like being around David Coverdale and Connie Katane when he was in Whitesnake, and what color panties that she wore. That seemed to be the dominant conversation. Whitesnake camp. It was crazy stuff. But yeah, he was like, man, I was sick of all that, and you know, I didn't want to play those games anymore. Of you know, literally going from not getting paid and getting ripped off and robbed to, you know, being in a band where I was getting paid, but you know, it was just circus atmosphere. To, you know, I think the reason why he loves Def Leppard is it's this blue collar. You know, bigger than life band, but a bunch of blue collar dudes that are all getting paid and just going out there doing their job and getting rewarded for it. And I think that's why he's just like, I'll stay in that lane all day long. But yeah,
I think the problem is he came into Leopard too late. So you know, it's he comes in under circumstances or whatever. We won't get into it, but his creative ability was probably hampered a little bit because he only came in the 90s, or was it early 90s? He came in after Steve died. Then he comes in, so he probably never really got the chance to flex his muscles as much as he would have liked to.
No, but his checks for playing those live concerts now are bigger than most bands' whole careers. So,
well, that's the trade-off, John. That's the trade-off, Jonathan. Do you want to be creative, or do you want to pay the mortgage? You know,
exactly.
I mean, look, I'm sure that if he wanted to be creative as well, he could go off and do something. Someone would love to let him do an album where he wanted to do what he wants to do as well as Def Leppard, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You get, you know, someone would love to sign a couple of album deals, I'm sure, if he just fiddle about on his guitar if he wanted to get out of his system. But I just got to say that, I mean, a great album on Sacred Heart, great work from him. But then I've got to say, Jonathan, I think you agree with this. The first 2 albums of Dio were some of the best guitar work I've ever heard on a metal record. Just amazing.
His performance dropped by probably 25% on this record, but that effort was still better than most of this year. So, you know,
right, we've got to
give him the thumbs up.
Yeah, definitely. Got a couple of comments here, guys. Last in Line are amazing live. So Last in Line, I've seen them actually live. They're
Yeah.
It's got him in it again, Vivian Campbell. They do some really great, pretty good live. I saw them at Download, done a really good job live.
Yeah.
Yeah. And The Fire Burns Within. He says, hi guys, any love for Virgin Steel in the house? Noble Savage was a big favourite of mine from '85. I haven't actually heard any Virgin Steel stuff, but I don't know if you guys have. No. Sorry. Too many bands. Too many bands in '85. Just like what's going on. Okay, I'm really happy about this next one that someone chose, and I didn't force them to choose this either. So Mark Cloer chose this one. You might know this one as well, Jonathan. So Joshua and Surrender. Man, I'm so glad you chose this, Mark. You can start us off on this, but I love this album. Oh, you got it. Oh, by the way, I got a Joshua album here. Look.
Is that Intense Defense?
Yeah.
Well, my copy is actually a reissue. This isn't the original album cover. It was originally released in '85, and then they reissued it in '92 with this cover. Joshua Pariah is one of those speed demon guitar guys. His playing reminds me a lot of Vinnie Vincent. That real busy, maybe not quite as busy as Vinnie was on those two Vinnie Vincent albums, but he's definitely one of those speed merchant guitar players. Joshua was known as a Christian metal band, but their lyrics aren't as blatantly Christian as, say, Striper or even Sacred Warrior. They're a little more subtle. Not quite as upfront with the religion thing. The reason they came onto my radar, the singer on most of the songs was Jeff Fenholt. And they came on my radar because of Jeff's very brief involvement with Black Sabbath.
Jam knows about this. Jam's heard this story of Jeff Fenholt.
I was absolutely obsessed with Black Sabbath and still am, really. Anything that their name's attached to, I tend to check out. But I first heard of Jeff Fenholt probably in the late '80s. My dad, in addition to being a minister, was also a printer, and he printed some flyers for some sort of Christian organization where Jeff Fenholt was in town or somewhere nearby doing some sort of evangelical seminar or something, and it listed him as former lead singer of Black Sabbath.
Oh, mate.
My dad brought one of those home to me, and I was just like, who the hell is this guy?
No, he wasn't.
I knew all the singers of Sabbath, including Ray Gillen, who never actually appeared on an official album. I was like, who the hell is Jeff Fenholt? And several years later, I finally discovered the internet. And in researching Jeff Fenholt, found out that he actually sang on this album. So I hunted it down because I had to hear the voice of this guy that was allegedly in Black Sabbath.
Legendary Black Sabbath singer.
So this was my first exposure to his voice. And then several years later, not to get off track, the demos that he did record with Black Sabbath or Tony Iommi, however you want to classify it, surfaced that proved he recorded what was supposed to be, the album was going to be called Star of India, became Seventh Star. But anyway, that's another story. But anyway, this is a very melodic slab of metal. Pariah, like I said, had that Vinnie Vincent kind of style. Very, very busy, very fast player.
I've got to say, man, that album is fantastic. Probably the first half of it is the best. Like
the song,
it's full of good songs at the beginning.
There's a cover of the old Yardbird song "Heart Full of Soul" that they did a real good version of. "Rockin' the World" is my favorite song in here. But
Mark, you might know this. Was Fenholt? Didn't he sing in the Broadway?
Yes.
Of Jesus Christ Superstar or something?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought.
He was also a Broadway.
Yeah, I meant to mention that and forgot about it. I'm glad you brought it up. Yeah, he was. People thought he was an unknown when he got involved with Black Sabbath, but he really wasn't. He was the he sang in the Broadway version of Jesus Christ Superstar, and he was actually on the cover of Time magazine. That's him.
What are you doing with that? I'll tell you what. If Mark was a serial killer, he would keep.
This is my Bible, by the way.
He would keep every bit of their body, wouldn't he, Darren?
Yeah.
He would chop bits off of them. For sure.
He just pulled that out of nowhere, just out of the ether.
100%.
Just like, look, here's a picture of Finn Holt doing Jesus Christ Superstar.
On a side note to that, Lee, because I've got the AirPods hooked up to the laptop, even when I go for a leak, I can hear what's going on, right? And when Mark said, he went, his dad came home and he went, "Who the hell is that?" I nearly pissed on the floor. Fucking hilarious. Brilliant.
Oh, anyway, to finish up here, the reissue, they actually had another singer coming in. The original version had one song that was sang by Lee's buddy Ken Tamplin.
Oh my! Yeah, the most annoying, happiest person I know.
Yeah. Anyway, when they Tamplin did that song because Finn Holt had already left and was hooked up with Black Sabbath by that time. But when they re-recorded it, they had a guy named Robin Kyle Basari come in and redid the vocals on that, and did another track as well. And he had a great voice. He always reminded me of Ray Gillen.
Yeah,
he was in a couple other Christian bands at the time. If Badlands ever wanted to regroup with a new singer, they should have brought this guy in because he had a very Gillen type vocal style.
I've got to say, Jeff Finn Holt and Ken Tamplin have got amazing voices. Like, you know.
Yeah, Finn Holt actually passed away a couple of years ago. I didn't.
Sorry. He had amazing voice. Sorry,
yeah.
I didn't know.
It's funny because back then I was all in the middle of that scene, and I don't remember Joshua from back then. I remember him from recently. I got kind of reintroduced to him.
Yeah,
so they weren't
Rob
a super. Yeah, Rob Rock. Yeah,
right.
They weren't a super like famous. You know, even in the Christian metal circles back then, they weren't super famous. They were kind of on the fringes of both genres, you know, so I don't think they ever got like maybe the credit they deserved as a band. You know, I'm friends with Joshua Pryor now on Facebook and stuff, and I know what they're capable of and what they've done, and it's super impressive.
Yeah.
But I'm like, how did I miss this back then? You know,
it's good. You'd love that. You'd love that. They bought a couple of more, not recent now, a few years ago now, but I think everything they've released has been pretty good, especially the first couple of albums. Really good.
Yeah, never had a bad singer.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Cheers, guys. That's interesting. Thanks for that, Mark. Okay, we're going to move on to our. Oh, by the way, Fireburns of In is saying, how about Sabotage, Power of the Night? I know that came out that year. I mean, I got into Sabotage a lot later. I don't know about you guys, in the 88, 89, with Paul of the Mountain King and Gutter Ballet, but they didn't do a bad job back in 85, though. Pretty good. Okay, the next one, the last of our two votes is, I was surprised, actually, this came up. I really was. I mean, it's voted for by Darren and Mark. I think I was more surprised by Mark. I didn't know that he would vote for this one. It's Gary Moore and Run for Cover. I know I like a bit of Gary Moore, but I mean, I'm not. Oh, look at it. It's all right. He's got. You knew he'd have the album. Come on, Darren.
No, this is the one time I didn't think he would. Of course he does.
Well, you didn't actually know who voted for it, did you? That's the thing.
No, I didn't. I thought, to be honest with you, I thought it was either you or Jam.
Yeah, well, it was Mark. So Darren. Yeah, I mean, Darren, you can speak about this one, mate, and then Mark can join in.
Ah, man, the late great Gary Moore. I mean, a fellow Irishman and former, as we know, Tin Lizzy guitarist. Just, I've mentioned Gary a couple of times on your channel, Lee, and I've mentioned him a couple of times on my own channel too. I'm a big fan of Gary Moore. I probably even more so outside Lizzy. Like I just big fan of his work. Again, like Magnum, this album was his breakthrough. Run for Cover. You know, I don't know. Jonathan is a guitarist, and you guys know a lot about music, all of you. But for me, Gary Moore has to be up there as one of the best guitarists of all time. I mean, he is just
great player.
I agree.
So good, so understated, and just like what I love about this, sorry, go on.
Mate. I just think that for pure emotion in his guitar playing, he's got to be one of the best.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. But he has that kind of thing. We talked about Vivian Campbell there a while ago. Gary Moore also has that thing where he can sing as well. Something that probably didn't really get a chance in Thin Lizzy or his previous career, but that man can sing. I mean, he can, okay, he's not Steve Perry, but he can sing, like he's got a great vocal on him. That lead single, what's it called? Out in the Fields and he has, what I look at the album is there's a nice bit of flavor on the album because he's brought in kind of guest musicians, and even Phil Lynott himself is on this album. And I listened to it a couple of times even today, just to kind of, out of all the albums we're talking about, this is one I listened to today. It's just blown me away again. I hadn't listened to it in a long time, and it's just so good. Lynott gets a full song to himself. Now, it's a Gary Moore album, but Lynott gets a full song to himself on Military Man, and take a look at your boy. Take a look at your boy. That that chorus. Oh, stunning! Absolutely stunning. And you know what? Don't even get me started on Empty Rooms. I think Empty Rooms might have. That song. Yeah. I think it might have been on a previous album, but he re-recorded it for this one. And you know me, Lee. I'm a guy who likes lyrics. I like delving into it and kind of having a look. And Empty Rooms is effectively a song about the breakdown of a relationship and the physical pain that the couple are feeling are manifesting themselves in the bricks and mortar of the house that they're sharing together. That's what Empty Rooms is about. It's about a relationship breaking down and empty rooms where we used to share our love. Just I love that kind of. I know everyone's not into lyrics, but I just love the story, the lyrics of that. Man. Oh, it's so good.
That is just, that's deep.
Yeah, it's deep. It's so deep. It's literally manifest. The lyrics and the emotion of it are manifesting themselves in the bricks and mortar of the home they shared together. And I love that.
As a songwriter, stuff like that is just pure magic. I mean, you don't grapple those type of the musicianship of the guy. His playing is just stellar. But to be able to be a wordsmith, to take people into those type of places, that's very unique.
He's definitely a musician as well, and he for sure. Anyone who knows how to play a chord will appreciate Gary Moore for sure.
He's not selfishly. You can imagine he spent all them years in Tin Lizzy, and the man can sing and write a song like this. Gary Moore. I'll cap it off with Gary Moore by saying I think Gary Moore is an all-rounder, and probably again deserves. I think people, that love music like us and the people who are listening, Jonathan, who's a musician himself, will appreciate Gary Moore. But you could say his name on the street to people, they wouldn't know who you're talking about. So he is an out and out all rounder, singer, guitarist, songwriter. What the fuck more do you want?
I had a very similar situation in that I was a vocalist, but I played guitar dominantly for a long time before I ever picked up doing lead vocals. And it was weird because you're always seen as that guitar player. And I think Gary Moore kind of suffered that, even though he was, a fantastic vocalist, he kind of suffered that, and to be able to, like you said, be an all arounder as a musician, and he was. And the thing is that probably lends itself to, explaining how much impact that he had in the bands that he was, the situations and the other musicians, how much impact he actually had on those other musicians, because he probably was carrying a lot of that in the writing.
Absolutely. You know what I'll say? One last thing would be, I like the fact that whatever happened with Lizzy, but I like the fact that clearly a friendship remained with Phil Lynott. The fact that Lynott's on this album and he's prominent on it. He's backing vocals. He's co-lead vocal. He's lead vocal on a Gary Moore album. But I like the fact that they clearly remain friends at this point, and that's quite cool.
It's awesome.
What was you going to say, Jan?
I was just going to just ask you guys if they still liked him. Obviously, not there's anything wrong with it. When he started going into his blues stuff, or were you more into just when he was doing his mainstream rock stuff?
I preferred the non-blues stuff, but that's just me being a non-blues person. That's just me. I appreciated it. I appreciated it though, for sure.
He was, like Darren said, he was at least in the States, I only know a couple of people that know who Gary Moore is, and they're considerably older than I am.
It's musicians.
The average music fan around here, if I mentioned Gary Moore's name, they wouldn't have a clue who I was talking about. This is another one that came on my radar because of the Black Sabbath connection. Glenn Hughes did 5 songs on this album. This is the project he did right before he did the Sabbath album. And when I heard, again, back then, I was anybody that was associated with Black Sabbath that had another project, I would try my best, especially the vocalist, I would try to get my hands on it. So I bought this because of the Glenn Hughes connection. All 5 songs he did were great. There's one, which one was it? Nothing to Lose, that's pretty heavy by Gary Moore standards. And it could have fit pretty well on the 7th Star album. But
you know what? I don't know why I've always thought this. I don't know what you think about this, Mark. I think he's got a similar tone to Glenn Hughes' voice.
Gary Moore?
Yeah. For me, it sounds a bit similar sometimes.
I hadn't thought about it, but yeah, I can understand where you're coming from on that. Yeah, just a very underrated album. It is a little dated with all the keys and synthesizers. As I listen to it now, it's clearly, mid '80s. A lot of it wouldn't sound real fresh today, but for the time period, it was a great album, and I still enjoy listening to it. Empty Rooms, like y'all have said, is a great ballad. One of y'all brought it up in one of our ballad shows. I don't remember which one of them it was.
Yeah. I think that was me.
I remember when you brought it up, I was like, damn, how did I forget about that one? Because that's a great ballad.
Let's go to the comments quickly, guys. That's some great comments from you guys, though. Even Red Devils has put beautifully put, Steve, about Gary Moore. Beautiful comments there he's put from you. Delana, in addition to Queensryche and Gary Moore to Styx road trip, she's got some sort of road trip planned. I'll take it to go see Styx.
I have never seen anyone, and I mean anyone, as dedicated to going to see gigs as Delina. I mean, my God. It's like every week. It's unbelievable.
And my missus has just joined because, get this, sorry I'm late. I told her to log on, obviously, to watch because she's really interested. She's been chasing a bat around the bedroom because the cat brought a bat in.
Bloody hell.
Nice. They don't get more metal than that.
Yeah, exactly. And she said she's going to look for an album for me to slate because all her albums are shit that she asked for me. So there you go. I've got a new Hair Metal Rules has joined. I've never seen Hair Metal Rules before.
So man, just before you call it, that is David Brown, who runs a great Instagram page. He has the biggest record collection of any vinyl, probably even bigger than Mark, you've ever seen. I don't know if any of you follow him on Facebook or Instagram, but he is from Ireland. He's from Dublin as well, and he is a proper rock.
I will do that. I'll follow him, man.
Follow him, yeah.
I bet he ain't got confetti though. I bet he ain't got.
No,
There's
Where's he going?
Yeah, I think Mark needs to be Mark Museum Club.
Yeah,
he's like the museum of like metal history.
We've actually finished with the 2 votes now. We're getting on to the 3. Darren will be back in a minute, but our next album, I'll mention it. Oh, here we go. Hold on.
I just want to say about the confetti, and I want to say thanks to Mark here. I want to get this because I was going to do it later, but I want to do it now. Mark sent me this amazing book because he knew I liked the Def Leppard book that he had. But not only that, he sent me the confetti as well.
No, he didn't. You got some of the confetti?
I got some of the actual confetti. Mark sent to me. Absolutely, such a generous gift.
That's amazing.
And I won't show it. Your own confetti, by the way.
He sent me this. Mark found this book in a shop near him, and he knew I liked it. So, Mark, genuinely, brother, I really appreciate it. You know I love you. So, thank you. And I won't show it in this, but he also sent me a handwritten letter as well, which was absolutely cherished, and I will keep this safe. So thanks for that, Mark. I appreciate it.
Well, I thought you only loved me because I thought I was the only one who got gifts, but obviously not. You're right. Did you find the bat?
Did you not hear me chasing it around the bedroom?
I didn't hear you. No, I've got my headphones on. Sorry.
I had to go outside, get a fishing net, and chase it around the bedroom till it landed on the bed because it was knackered.
Has he got any wings left?
This is great.
Yeah, I put it out the window. Thanks for, helping and shit.
That's great.
Love you.
Happy birthday.
Wait, stick it up for me. It wasn't my cat that brought it in, it was her cat. There you go. So,
thank you, Mark. Thank you, Mark, anyway. I appreciate it, mate. Yes. Genuinely.
You're welcome.
That's a great gift, man. I love that.
Amazing. I'll cherish that.
Okay. All right. Well, I just
wish the bat had flown in there with you. That would have been amazing.
Well, yeah, if it was flying around here, it would have been hilarious, wouldn't it? That would have been excellent.
You're gonna shit yourself.
I would have done. She's right. I would have shit myself. Right. We're moving. Now there's a band that's been in the news lately. And this is the next band we're going to talk about. So they've got a new song out, but obviously we're talking about 1985 now. So a live album has been voted for. Live After Death by Iron Maiden, 14th of October on EMI Records. So look at all the Maiden stuff coming out. Look, I know it ain't the right album or anything, but we've got all that Maiden stuff coming in. So Live After Death. Why don't you kick us off on that, mate?
Okay, yeah. Released 14th of October on EMI, like everything Maiden have released. Mixed by, produced by Martin Birch, of course. Classic Maiden lineup, and this is recording at Long Beach Arena. Well, the vinyl, 3 sides of the vinyl are recorded at Long Beach Arena, and the final side is Hammersmith Odeon, actually, in England, so in London. But the video was all filmed in Long Beach Arena in America, obviously. It's a classic lineup of Maiden. It's the tour, World Slavery Tour, so it's a tour for Power Slave. I think it's recorded, obviously came out in 85, I presume it was taped in 84, but I might say on there anyway. But yeah, it's brilliant. It opens with the Churchill speech, and then, obviously there's the video that goes along with it. The whole live video is where you see the epic stage show they had there. I don't know how much of that they brought over to the UK because it's such a big set that I'm not sure they've got many arenas over here. Because Hammersmith Odeon is pretty small, actually, compared to some of the obviously American arenas.
Best album, 1985.
Sorry, it's just that she's shown an album to me that Darren chose that no one knows about. It's the Tears for Fears one. There you go, Darren. Someone else likes them.
Songs from the big chair, Tears for Fears.
I knew you told me before, Lee, when you're driving in the car, your missus does say, I like his taste in music. So there you go. I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised.
Sorry, mate. Go on, Jack.
No, it's quite a classic live album. Back in the day, live albums were quite a big thing, and it doesn't seem to be a thing much anymore. But when bands brought out live albums, you rushed out to get it, and this is just one of the best live albums of all time. Brilliant songs on it. Because Power Slave is a brilliant album, as we all know. So it's got all the classics. Opens with Aces High after Churchill's speech, and it's just fantastic live album. And the video that goes with it, as I say. If you've never seen it, then you're missing out there.
Well, me and Brian also voted for this. Obviously, you can see Brian voted for it. Look at him. Look. He's just... Go on, Brian. Tell us a little bit about this album. You love a bit of Maiden.
I absolutely love this album when it came out. I didn't know it was out. My cousin Scott had it. And I was riding with him.
Look at that. Hold on, Brian. Just look at that. Look at that, Darren. Look at that. Opens up. Oh.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Love that.
I was with my cousin Scott, and I said, Iron Maiden's got a live album? And he said, yeah. So when I got home, I immediately ran and got it. Got it on cassette, got it on vinyl. It seems like all my stuff is, except for the CD, is packed up at my mom's. But y'all did a show not too long ago about albums for a deserted island. this would be one of mine, without a doubt. I'm in love with this album. I've listened to it thousands of times. I introduced I would say both of my sons to Iron Maiden with this album. My youngest son followed me in music, and where my oldest son followed my wife into like Southern gospel type music. And well, he's in the ministry as well. But you know, all the little nuances in this song, all the little things that happen in between each song, like in between Revelations and Flight of Icarus, when at the very end where you hear Bruce Dickinson singing "You," and a few seconds later someone yells "motherfucker" right there on the album. And that part came on while we were in the car, and I was playing it for the kids. My wife hadn't heard it, and that came on, and she said, "Praying in front of the children." I said, "It's already happening now." So just little things like that. I absolutely love this album. One of my all-time favorites. Even though it's a live album, just splendid. And if I could, I'd buy several more copies just to have them around.
Yeah, it's really good. It's quite a lot faster. They play a lot faster live, don't they? So
yes,
I actually prefer Revelations on this to the actual recorded version. I find it a bit slow if I listen to it on Peace of Mind now, whereas I prefer this version. But
I've actually got a Canadian friend, or I used to have a Canadian friend who said that he saw them on the World Slavery Tour. It was just like, he didn't even like Iron Maiden. You know, one of them annoying friends that goes, "Oh yeah, they toured Canada and I watched them at some arena. I can't even remember it." And you're like, you just need people to appreciate stuff like that. I love that album. And I think it's a bit like the end of an era for Maiden for me. Now I know that Jam likes some of the later albums. I mean, I think Seventh Son is maybe your favourite album.
Yeah, definitely.
But for me, Power Slave was the height of Maiden. So this sort of capped off this brilliant period of Maiden where they couldn't do no wrong for me.
Yeah.
From Number of the Beast through to Power Slave, and I just thought those three albums were just amazing. It sort of capped that off for me. I had the video as well, and I just played it constantly, just constantly. I've been trying to get it. Look for it on Blu-ray. They don't actually do it on Blu-ray.
It's on the early years. If you get one of the early years DVDs they did, or Blu-rays they did, it's got the whole performance on there, I think.
Oh, because I couldn't find it on Blu-ray. Perhaps I can find it then. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
I absolutely love the live album. I think it's brilliant. And of course, but Darren, I got to see him at the Red Lion the year after, didn't I? Which you know about.
Yeah. Well, you played with them. I mean,
exactly. Well, they said, as they were going to do Lost for Words, when they finished that, they said, "Well, Bruce ain't here tonight. Lee, what you do you know the words to Hello Me?"
Lee, in 30 seconds, I want you to do one thing once and for all. Give it 30 seconds. Clarify what happened. You were in the pub, they were in the pub. Clarify. 30 seconds. That's all it takes.
That was it. They were up. I was in the pub. Right. So now Brian might not know this actually. I don't know if you heard this story, Brian. I will do it in 30 seconds. The Red Lion in Gravesend, which holds about 200 people at the most, maybe 150, said the Sherman Tankers were coming to play next week. They are Iron Maiden. I said, "What are you talking about?" Yeah, they're under a different name. It's Iron Maiden. This was in 1985, maybe 86. I thought it was full of shit, the landlord just trying to get people there to buy tickets. Iron Maiden walk in without Bruce Dickinson in 1986 and play this little Gravesend dingy pub, and they jump on stage and play Lost for Words after Nico McBrain and Adrian Smith were with this band called the Sherman Tankers, and they actually played Lost for Words in front of me, and I could not believe my eyes. And Darren still doesn't actually believe it. So I mean, I don't even know. But
all I know is that Lee likes to think that he opened up for Iron Maiden. That's what he thinks, right? That's what Lee thinks, right? That's what happened.
Like that. I would like that. I must admit. But they were there. I must admit. I wasn't.
I found the article on the internet confirming that, by the way. So.
Of course you did.
Who else would?
I can't confirm he was there, but I confirm
I was there. They actually did a little mini tour with Adrian Smith and Nick O'Brien on drums and a couple of other people as the Sherman Tankers. That was hidden under this name, and they did a little tour of the pubs around England, and they turned up at the Red Lion, my local pub.
That is amazing. That is amazing. That is amazing. I love it.
It was absolutely amazing, even though it wasn't true. It's amazing.
It's a full fabrication, but yeah, good stuff.
Okay, well, I'm going to get a beer from the fridge, but I voted for this one, so I will come back, obviously. We're going from full metal to a bit of Bon Jovi. So 3 people have actually voted for this. 7,800 degrees or 7,800 degrees Fahrenheit. Released the 27th of March on Mercury. Mark Cloer is going to kick this one off while I go and get a beer.
Yeah, second Bon Jovi album, probably the heaviest, most metal, if you can consider Bon Jovi metal, of anything they've ever done. The title, by the way, I always wondered what that meant. It actually, 7,800 degrees Fahrenheit is the point at which rock melts. So that's where the title came from.
That's cool.
Anyway, John Bon Jovi really does not like this album. They very rarely perform any of the songs live. He claims they were kind of pushed in this direction by the producer, and this was not really who they were. The producer was trying to cash in on that mid-'80s, metal movement, and according to John Bon Jovi, that really wasn't where he wanted to be anyway. But I freaking love this album. This and the debut, when I really feel like listening to Bon Jovi, this one and the debut album, and to a lesser degree, Slippery When Wet, just because it is a little overplayed, as we've discussed before. This album is definitely not overplayed because they hardly ever play anything live, and you very, very rarely hear anything on the radio. The one that was released as a single, Only Lonely, back in the day, got a little bit of play, and then In and Out of Love back in the day, but you never hear them now.
Shot through the hearts in that, isn't it?
That's on the first album.
That was on the
first
debut.
album.
I'm pretty sure that was on the debut.
Is this the second album? Because when you think about it this way, if they're talking about we're pushing this direction, pushing that direction, if it's only their second album, bands will do what they have to do to keep a record deal.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, even if he's not feeling it, I love this album, by the way, and I should have voted for it. I didn't vote for it, but they'll do what they have to do to keep a record deal. I mean, don't pretend you didn't like it. You created it, John.
Yeah.
Own it.
Right.
Yeah, I voted for this, and I think it's become my favourite Bon Jovi album over time, mainly because of what Mark said and some of the overplayedness of Slippery When Wet. And I think the only thing that let it down at the time was the mix on the album. It was very flat. It still sounds very flat now. It's got a terrible drum sound, and I know John Bon Jovi was complaining because the same producer did the Black and Blue album Without Love, and he was saying that album sounded much better than this album, and he was moaning. And then they completely left, and then he started bringing this thing in about how proud he was to be from New Jersey after that, didn't he? He started to slowly get that thing in. But I think this was a brilliant album, and it's grown with me over time. Only, like you said, Only the Lonely. There's another softer sort of song on there that I absolutely love. Hardest Part Is the Night. What a song that is. I think
track two, The Price of Love, and track 10, Sweet Dreams. Stunning.
I love The Price of Love. I love that song. I think it's a great album. The only actual one the song that I don't actually like is In and Out of Love. I think that's a bit of a weak song for me. I don't know why I don't like that, but I think the rest of it, when they really hit that melodic part of it, I think it's some of the best stuff they've done. I mean, Bon Jovi are terrible now, in my opinion, but back then they were good. Brian, you voted for this, mate.
Yeah, you saying about In and Out of Love, that seems to be the favorite song of most people on the album. I was looking at it on Spotify, and In and Out of Love has 8 million plays, and the closest one after that is Only Lonely with 1.6 million plays. So obviously
everyone's got a bad taste.
But my favorite song on the album is Tokyo Road. I don't know why, I just loved it ever since it came out. That is one of my favorite songs, and this is my favorite Bon Jovi album. Regardless of Slippery When Wet or the debut, this is my favorite Bon Jovi album.
Yeah,
because this I think it's the heaviest and not as poppy or pop metal as Slippery When Wet. Just a great album.
Hair Metal Rules says Tokyo Road is a classic track. You're totally right. Yeah, it's good. It's a good track.
I saw them open for Ratt on this tour. Ratt was touring for Invasion of Your Privacy, which we're getting ready to talk about. But Bon Jovi, they were pretty damn heavy, on this tour, and they gradually, as time went on, they got more poppy and softer. But back in the day, they were pretty freaking heavy.
I saw him on the New Jersey tour, I think. The only time I've seen him, but good live.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look, he's one of them. He's got one of those voices that is just completely shot now. He can hardly get a note out. But back in the day, mate, they were a great band. Especially Richie Sambora was a brilliant guitarist as well. Absolutely fantastic. We've got a couple of people that have disappeared, but they're going to talk apparently in a minute. I don't know what's going on. Maybe Jonathan's getting another margarita. I don't know what he's doing. Oh, here he is.
Maybe got too many margaritas.
Right, Jonathan. Sorry, we finished on Bon Jovi. We were all right with that.
Lee, do you mind if I just ask one question? I could hear that while I was taking a leak. Do you think John Bon Jovi's voice is shot? I don't.
Oh, completely. I heard him the other day. He couldn't even get a note out.
I think that's harsh.
What do you mean? Listen, if he couldn't get a note out, I'm not being harsh. I'm just saying you how it is. Well, and listen, his music now, he can't write a rock song. He don't want to, obviously. He's completely left rock behind. He's completely left rock behind. So that's up to him. It's fine, but I love Bon Jovi up to at the time.
Oh no, you do. I'm not. Look, I'm not having a go. I'm just saying that I listened to their last album. Was that last year, 2020? I think it was. Yes, it's not rock, but at the same time, okay, you can do whatever the fuck you like now, in behind the, at the mixing desk. But I didn't think his voice was shot.
No, that's the thing. That's the thing. I'm talking about the live situation, though, Darren.
Right.
I mean, Bon Jovi, David Coverdale sounds great on the last album, but I watched him live, and he got his guitarist to sing most of the song because live he's opening his mouth and he can't get the word. He just can't get the if he does anything that remotely goes to a high pitch, which. Man, years and years of touring. It's fair enough.
No, I get it. Look, you can work all the magic you want, but in the sound, in the booth, a lot of that can come from that. I am basing it purely on listening to that last album. I haven't listened to Bon Jovi live, as in, I haven't heard them live in,
I know. Just for a laugh, I saw there was a video that came out about 5 years ago, and someone was camcording it, and John Bon Jovi was at a wedding. I don't know if you've seen it on YouTube.
I think I did actually. Yeah.
And there's a girl singing. She's obviously singing at the wedding. He's just a guest. And then she invites him up to sing "Living on a Prayer" or something, and he looks shocked, like, "Oh no, don't ask me to sing it." He just lets her sing it. He's like, "All right, go on," like he did for years. You know what I mean? Ready? Whoa! Listen, I could never sing like him anyway, but it's just you got to play to your strengths now. When I saw Coverdale and Whitesnake, I was really impressed because of the way he used the band. I knew his voice; he couldn't do it, but he's got Joel Holkstra and who's the other guy in Whitesnake now?
Red Beach.
Red Beach. Both of them have got amazing voices, and the bass guitarist, and they basically sang near enough all the songs, and he just joined in.
I think you're right. We won't get too far off track, but I saw Whitesnake 2 years ago at Grass Pop, and they do hide the cracks well.
And listen, if you want to go, I loved seeing them because
But it's still entertaining. It's still entertaining.
Oh, brilliant, mate, brilliant. Yeah, I agree. Anyway,
I will say I've seen recent pictures of John Bon Jovi, and his head looks like it's worn out 3 bodies. I mean, he's not aging well. I don't think.
No.
So if that represents his voice, his voice is not what it used to be. And I don't think he was ever misunderstood as one of the strongest vocalists of that era at all. He was a guy that maximized, his gifts, I think. But even so much so, there's reports of him having to get vocal coaches in the middle of tours to be able to finish the tour. Early
I think he liked to smoke, doesn't he?
He had to kind of smoke, yeah. Well, he started losing his voice in the middle of the tour because he didn't know how to sing right. So he didn't know how to actually. I can tell you as a vocalist, when you get up there and oftentimes you can't hear the monitors. And back before inner ears and stuff, you were relying on the monitors, and about 95% of the time you can't hear yourself effectively in the monitors. And what your propensity is to sing too loud. You're trying to over project so that the audience hears you, even though what's coming out of the mains, is loud enough, but you're not hearing yourself. So you have to basically convince yourself, okay, I can't oversing because I'm going to blow my vocal cords out. So I have to control my volume, even though I can't hear myself. It's a very uncomfortable position to be in as a vocalist, but you're in it most of the time, unfortunately. And for him, he was just blowing his vocals out every night.
I mean, listen, we've spoke about one of the best live albums ever recorded in Live After Death. But I mean, if you want to be honest about it, and I love Bruce Dickinson, right? But that World Slavery Tour was a 2-year tour, wherever it was. And even on that recording, you can hear him losing his voice. He couldn't sing like he could on record, but you knew he couldn't, and that's just the nature of the beast, isn't it? A guitarist can get up there till he's 70 and still play the guitar. A singer can't. He's just there, isn't he? His voice is his voice. That's all he's got. So it's not easy. It's not easy whatsoever.
As you get older, you lose that. You lose a lot of that top end off your voice. You lose a lot of the control, and that kind of stuff. It's part of aging, I mean, you don't hear an 80-year-old or 70-year-old person whose voice sounded like it did when they were 40.
No, exactly.
I'd love to hear if he's still in the live chat at any point in the next couple of minutes. I'd love to hear David Brown, Hair Metal Rules. Did he buy the new album from Bon Jovi or not? Just a thumbs up, thumbs down. I'd like to know that.
I'm glad you mentioned the comments quickly before we go to the next one. But we'll wait to hear from Hair Metal Rules. So Delena says, love this Bon Jovi album. Favourite song is Tokyo Road also. Red Devil says, because someone mentioned how heavy the album was, he said heavy in hair, maybe. Metal Madness says, saw that Bon Jovi rap tour. First and last time I saw Bon Jovi. And Delena says, not everyone can age as well as Tommy Shaw. She loves Tommy Shaw, doesn't she?
She loves Tommy. The biggest Styx fan you've ever seen. Yeah.
Hair Metal Rules, no. I played a few samples and passed. There you go.
There you go. There's your critique.
Okay. We're on to a band that's been mentioned a lot. Underrated band, obviously. Jonathan's going to kick us off on this, but Jonathan, Mark, and Brian chose this. Released on 9th of September on Music for Nations, Roadrunner Records. Loudness, Thunder in the East. Look, the poster's out, the CD's out, and everything.
I see it.
Right, Jonathan, you kick us off. Loudness.
I mean, honestly, this was one of the first metal albums that I owned. I remember hearing the, the opening riff of this record, and just it made me want to play guitar. I'm like, oh my God, what am I hearing right now? And to be honest with you, I know I've said this before, on previous streams. This is probably the single most underrated metal band of all time. This band should have been at the pinnacle. Had they been, white males that grew up in California, they would have been the biggest band in the world, because musically speaking, these guys were elite level players on every instrument. Their songwriting skills were A+ across the board. I don't think in their first 4 or 5 albums they put out a weak album. And this album right here just was I think it's an iconic record. I mean, I don't think there's a weak song on the record. The production serves the album well for the time, because all the albums kind of had that thin kind of sound to it, but I think it serves it well. The guitar tones for me were the thing that got me. Like his guitar playing style, this guy is probably one of the top 3 players of the era. And I'm including like Eddie Van Halen. I'm including like some high level players in the mix. And this guy can play guitar. And he was one of my early influences as a player. I blew this record up. I mean, I probably wore it out. I probably bought 10 different copies of it. I wore it out so bad. It's just an amazing record through and through. And, I was never impacted by the fact that he had a bad English, accent, like the heavy Japanese accent over the English speaking, lyrics. That never affected me because I could tell what he was saying, but also the songs were so strong and the musicianship was so high. And the only thing that I regret was I was never able to see Loudness. Probably one of the only one of my bands that I considered to be influences on my playing early on that I didn't get to see. And I did not get to see them even when they were touring with Stryper. And I regret it to this day that I've never seen Loudness live.
Well, I'm sure there's someone who has, Jonathan.
Yeah.
Should we go, Mark? Mark, you're next.
Just going out on a limb here.
I saw him in '87 with Stryper and TNT, and that was, to this day, that was in my top 3 concerts of all time. Like he just said, this album should be required listening for any metal fan. It's the 5th Loudness album, but the first that was recorded from the ground up for the English-speaking market. The previous album, Disillusion, originally came out in '83 and then was translated to English in '84, but the translation wasn't, it didn't have the impact as this album that was recorded from the ground up in English. Just incredible, like you said, guitar playing that, as far as I'm concerned, Akira Takasaki is the best shredder that ever picked up the instrument. I know that's a bold statement, but I'll take him over just about anybody in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
And Jonathan had said in past videos too that rhythm section, Higuchi and Yamashita on the drums and the bass, when they locked in, they were just on another level. They were as top notch at their craft as Takasaki was at the guitar. The drums on this album are just absolutely thunderous. Kind of harkens back to that huge drum sound of John Bonham. I listen to this. I mean, this is an album that I regularly play even now, so I didn't have to reintroduce myself to it, but I tried to listen to it like I was listening to it for the first time, even though I know I've played it thousands of times since 1985. And it just continues to blow me away, the ability of these guys to have not made it any bigger than they did. The album did. I was actually surprised to learn this. I looked it up yesterday. It peaked at number 74 in the U.S. Top 100 charts and stayed there for 23 weeks, which is pretty impressive, for a Japanese band. I didn't realize it stayed on the charts. You never heard them on the radio, or at least I didn't. But the big hit that they had was Crazy Nights. If anybody's ever heard Loudness, that's probably the one song they've heard, because they used to play it on MTV a fair amount. But this is one of my all-time favorite albums. Never get tired of it. There's not even the filler songs on this album do not suck. The 10s are all 11s as far as I'm concerned. It's just anybody who's never heard Loudness, you need to take the time. If you're a true metalhead and you hadn't heard Loudness, you need to do it.
I'm gonna have to now, because you just said that. Because you just said that, I've got to listen to the album now, haven't I?
I can't believe you hadn't listened to them as much as we preach about them.
Right, Mark, I have a question for you about this album.
Yeah,
there are some instrumental parts in this album, and probably the follow-up album, that literally I think were the kickstart of progressive metal. There are points in their playing that is extremely progressive, way more so than their peers. And it's the use of timing. The riffing was very, very different than anybody else. I honestly think that they helped inspire progressive metal by some of the riffing.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. I mean, I'm not a musician. You're the musician. You're the authority. But they were definitely pioneers, I guess, for lack of a better term, in that genre. I mean, he was more than just a shredder. You mentioned before the way his guitar phrasings went from two extremes without any effort, just so seamless. And he's brilliant. I mean, unfortunately, what they're churning out today doesn't sound like the classic Loudness. It's got a lot of the modern influence. I wish they would go back to this style. They've touched on it a few times in recent years with some of the recent albums, but nothing is.
And to tell you the truth, it's probably the right time to do it, because this sort of music is more popular than ever, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm just putting it on my Spotify list, by the way. All right.
Yeah. Don't believe him.
Okay, so challenge for you to review Loudness, Thunder in the East. You got a challenge.
Yeah.
A throwback challenge.
I've watched the Killer No Filler series. I know that he ain't never putting that on his Spotify playlist.
I am. If it's on here, I'm going to do it. Hold on.
Oh, it's on there.
I can't find it.
I don't know if they perhaps passed. I don't know if you're a fan or not. I couldn't remember. I think that Maiden perhaps passed us by in the UK a bit, because I don't really remember them particularly.
They did.
I don't know if they weren't marketed over here, or they didn't get released over here. I'm not sure, but it's just something.
While I try and find this, Brian, you just a couple of quick words on this one, mate.
Well, I mean, what can I say to follow those two? But it's a shame that only Crazy Nights was the only single release. I think they should have released like Hell and In Chains. I think would have done almost as well, and Heavy Chains would have done just as well. And some of the ballads on here they're strong, and I have no problems with his slight accent from Japanese. I really don't. This is one of the great albums of all time that people really need to listen to.
Yeah, it launched into metal.
I mean, to tell you the truth, there's a lot of, with the way metal is now, or heavy rock, a lot of the bands, as you know, are coming out of Sweden, Finland as well lately. And no one's got a problem with anyone's accent now. I mean, a lot of those Swedish bands have got slight accents as well. But I think, it doesn't bother me at all. So, that album ain't on here, by the way.
I'm looking at it on Spotify right now.
Well, you're in a different country, I think. Yeah.
What's on YouTube? You can at least look it up on YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will. Because I don't want to,
You won't be disappointed. And the same way Darren wasn't disappointed about Queensryche, you're a metal fan. You will eat this album up.
Okay, cool. Blue Hill is a motorbike going past. I don't know what that was.
That's here.
Right.
Sorry.
Oh, that's all right, mate. Anyway, we're going to talk about the last album that had 3 votes. So, who don't love a bit of W.A.S.P? So, Jam, me, myself, and Mark Cloer voted for this. Jam's going to kick it off, though. W.A.S.P, The Last Command, November the 9th on Capitol Records. Go, mate.
Yeah, I haven't got the vinyl of this one. I've got the first album. I haven't got this one. So Mark's got the cover there. He's still got it there.
Oh yeah.
W.A.S.P.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's the
Oh,
one.
yeah.
Blackie Lawless, obviously, vocals, Chris Holmes, Randy Piper, and Steve Riley on drums. Second album from W.A.S.P. I'd say possibly slightly more commercial, but still very heavy. And we've got some big songs on here. We've got Wild Child, which was, we all remember the video, and Blinded Texas, of course. And it was just a good follow-up second album. I think the first album is probably a lot better for me, and I like some of the stuff they did later. I think the Inside the Electric Circus was not so good after that, and then they brought out the brilliant Headless Children and Crimson Idol a bit later. But this is certainly a good second album, and I think I've said it before. Blackie Lawless is one of my favourite vocalists. I'm not going to talk about the person himself. Well, I won't say anything, but him as a vocalist, I think is brilliant. His voice is so unique, and it's still pretty good now. I mean, we don't know. I haven't seen him live for a while. I was supposed to see him live again last year. Obviously, they all got cancelled. But from when I've seen him, his voice is still pretty good.
And yeah, I was listening to him the other day. Sorry, Jam, and you're totally right about him. There's a real uniqueness about him. I don't just mean the character. The way he goes when he sings a line, and a lot of time he goes down. All right! He does that with his voice, which is a bit strange, isn't it? It's different than any other vocalist. But I love W.A.S.P.
There's no one sounds like Blackie Lawless. I've never heard anybody sound like him vocally, and as soon as you hear it, I just love the tone of his voice. I mean, he's not probably technically the best singer in the world, but I just think his voice is brilliant. And, shame he's perhaps not a bit of a knobhead. Oh, no, I said it.
I mean, them last couple.
You know what I think about Black?
Go on.
Yeah, Blackie Lawless's voice is like there are metal singers that have more of a non-masculine kind of way of singing, and then there are dudes that are dudes.
Oh,
he froze.
Locked up.
You know what I'm saying? That sing like Dio, like Blackie Lawless. That like you got very it's very with him that you it's just this.
Cutting out there a bit, mate. Frozen a little bit. As I think Jonathan's going to go and come back. Let's read a couple of comments. Yeah, let's read a couple of.
Give us a couple of comments, Lee. What's in there?
So I was going to annoy. I was actually going to annoy Jonathan, saying someone else, Metal Madness, saw Loudness open for Crüe on Theatre of Pain tour. Solid show, probably better than the Crüe, to be honest. Well, I'm not surprised by that. Sorry, Jonathan, we lost you for a minute there, mate.
Yeah,
you're all right. Just reading some comments quickly, mate. John Elvis, never checked out Loudness. Going to have to now. Otherwise, there goes my metalhead title. Yeah, I felt a bit like that when you said that. Hair Metal Rules, amazing album. I've had the CD for years, but just found the vinyl a few weeks back. I think he's still talking about Loudness, I believe. Red Devils, metal rock gets no airplay. So basically, without the live shows, they depend on the likes of this channel to get any coverage. So keep it up, please. That's a nice comment. Cheers, Red Devils. And Dommy, Wild Child is a legendary track. Yes, it is. Love it to this day. So, no. Cool. Sorry, Jonathan, mate. You was freezing, and then we lost you for a few seconds.
Third world Wi-Fi.
First world problems.
Yeah, exactly. Mark, you haven't really said. You got anything to say on the W.A.S.P?
Yeah, I'm just going to say this is my favorite W.A.S.P. album. I think the writing was on the wall that Blackie was taking over the band. I mean, obviously, he's the only one on the cover, like he was on the follow-up album. But Tony Richards, the original drummer, had already had enough and left. Steve Riley came in on this album. Randy Piper left after this album because he said Blackie was just too overbearing and, basically running the show by himself. But I love this album. It's one of my all-time favorite albums. Got to throw in a little bit of Sabbath trivia. The song Running Wild in the Streets that's on this album was actually used as a audition song when Ron Keel auditioned for Black Sabbath.
Ron Keel auditioned for Black Sabbath.
Yeah. He was, according to him, he was in the band for about 3 days. Spencer Proffer, who was the producer of this album, also produced Quiet Riot, Metal Health. He was supposed to produce the follow-up album to Born Again for Black Sabbath. And Ron Keel was being highly considered for the vocal spot. And this and 2 other songs were given to Ron Keel to sing over. I don't know if Sabbath actually played the songs as far as instrumental parts. Anyway, he claims he was given a tape of these songs to put his vocals on, and that was his audition tape for Black Sabbath. Obviously, that didn't ever happen, and that song, well, Spencer never produced the next album, which became became Seventh Star anyway. So anyway, long story short, that song ended up on the W.A.S.P album. So.
You I know this is a bit of a strange one. You mentioned Ron Keel, that surprised me, but
yeah,
Ron Keel slightly got a Blackie Lawless feel to his voice, wouldn't you say?
Never thought of it, but now that I think about it,
he's got that roughness to his voice, sort of, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Thinking of that Final Frontier album that I loved way back when in 1986, whatever it was.
Supposedly, MTV even put out a breaking news headline that Ron Keel had been named as the new singer in Black Sabbath.
That's mad. That is mad.
Kind of over anxious there, but 3 days later it was over. So
okay, right, guys, we're going to move on swiftly because we've been on for a couple of hours, near enough, but we're getting on to the ones that we've mainly voted for. 4 votes this one. What an amazing album. Brian's going to kick us off on this. This was released on the 22nd of November on Elektra Records. Dokken. Wow. Under Lock and Key. What an amazing album. Go, Brian.
Well, what can I say? But, it's the 3rd studio album by Dokken. Heavy rock, and one of the albums that kind of solidified me as a metalhead, especially with Unchained the Night and In My Dreams, some of the greatest songs out there. With, of course, Don Dokken on vocals, George Lynch and Jeff Pilson and Mick Brown. I've just one of the albums that just solidified me as a metal fan. Let's see. It reached number 22 on the Billboard 200 and remained there for 67 weeks. 2 singles were released, which was The Hunter and In My Dreams. And I'm sorry, there was a 3rd one. It was It's Not Love was also released, but
one on the back of the truck.
Right.
That one. Yeah.
Right. And Unchained the Night was favorite song on the album. Still listen to it to this day. I was more than glad to listen to it again. Just trying to refresh myself with all these songs. And my wife, she's like, I can't believe you're listening. I said, this is the metal I grew up. I mean, the music I grew up on. So it's not hard for me to listen to. just phenomenal guitar work, vocals. Love the album.
Yeah, brilliant. Just a quick word from you guys. We 4 of us voted for this. So, Jonathan, just a quick one about this album. Amazing album, mate.
This is Dokken's peak. This is their
I agree.
masterpiece, I think.
I agree.
This is them firing on all cylinders. And if I remember right, I remember being so frustrated back then, and all these other bands were going multi-platinum, and they were getting perpetual gold albums. This like one after the next. And I don't remember if this one went platinum during the era or if it waited to do it after. But I just remember being so frustrated that they were all over him.
He's going all robotic for us again, isn't he?
You know, the It's Not Love video.
We're losing you again, Jonathan. Sorry, mate. No.
That Wi-Fi slowing down on him.
It is.
Yeah.
Another 10p in the meter.
Sorry, mate. Yeah, we're cutting out big time there. Mark, brilliant album, mate. We've spoken about this album a few times.
Yeah, by far my favorite Dokken album. I'd give it a 8.5 out of 10. The only reason I rate it that low is because I hate the song "Slipping Away," as you know. And "Till the Living End" is not a great song. It's real easy for me to rank my number 1 and my least favorite, but the rest of the songs are so close. It's really hard for me to rank the rest of the songs on this album. They're so equally great.
Yeah.
I just, absolutely love this album.
Yeah, same here, mate. Sorry, Jonathan, mate. It was just doing the freezing thing there. Sorry about that, mate. But I think we'd all agree this is an amazing album. We spoke about, I think me and Mark, we did a top tracks of Dokken, and we voted Unchained the Night as our number 1, didn't we? What an amazing track. Delana has said Dokken Jaded Heart, great song. The loudest concert I've ever attended, amazing. So yeah, that is an amazing song. Metal Madness says Dokken was always a cut above in songwriting and talent. Don's voice was once one of the best of the era, and Lynch is still a force and reinventing himself regularly. Yeah, man. I mean, everyone goes on about Back for the Attack, but this was the album for me. Miles better than Back for the Attack. One in production. I've spoken about production before.
We lost
Aaron's one. Spoken about production before. He's probably he weren't even there. He's probably going to think I'd kicked him off. We've spoken about production on this on Back for the Attack was poor, but it was too long as well. There's like 14 songs on that Back for the Attack album. I mean, this is 10 songs in it on that Under Lock and Key that are just, apart from Slipping Away, obviously, Mark, that are just absolutely amazing. I do love it, and I think his guitar really cuts through perfectly on this album. Let's give a quick shout out because Mick Brown obviously retired, didn't he, a couple of years ago? Because basically he hits the drum so hard apparently that he just can't keep up anymore because he's getting older. And his brother has taken over in the end machine. I don't know if you know Steve Brown. He's his brother.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, and I'm actually friends with him, and he's such a nice guy. I just want to give a shout out to Steve Brown. I mean, he just hits the drums as hard as. I mean, he needs to slow down a bit as well because I don't know if you've seen him. He's just like, I mean, it's just mad. But he's a great drummer as well. But man, it just rubs off, doesn't it, in the family? You know what I mean? What a brilliant drummer! What an excellent album that is. One of the biggest ones for me.
One thing I've got to say, back in, I believe it was 1990, the year before I got married, I was in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. And we were riding down the road to the hotel, and I look up at a place called the After Deck, and it said Dokken tonight. It was Friday. I get to the hotel. I said, honey, I'm sorry. I'm going to see Dokken. Now, the After Deck, this was like a two-purpose building. On the left side was a strip club, and on the right side was the After Deck. You go through one door, so you make a decision. But Dokken is great in an arena, but in a small, intimate setting like the After Deck, they totally tore the roof out of that place. It was one of the best shows I'd ever seen, and being able to, get up close and watch George Lynch, watch his fingers work on the fretboard, and it was just something unreal. And like you said, Mick Brown was just thunderous on the drums.
Yeah,
it was one of the greatest shows I'd ever seen.
I don't know if any of you guys have seen, there's a video surfacing, mainly having a go at Don Dokken because he's lost his voice. Another guy who's lost his voice. But George Lynch jumped on the stage with him a few weeks ago and played Kiss of Death. And amazing, done some real ad-libbing on the guitar. Jonathan, you'll love it. He done some amazing stuff.
Oh, I've seen it. It's amazing.
Yeah, mental, absolutely mental. Anyway, we have to move on because we're going on to the next album. 4 of us voted for this again. Mötley Crüe. Mötley Crüe. So Jam's shaking his head. He doesn't like this album. So Darren, myself, Brian, and Mark vote for this. We're going to let Darren go on this. Maybe the people that are not first, give a couple of lines on it because we're running over a bit. Darren's going to give the main bit on this, and then we'll have a couple of little lines on this album. Go on, then, Darren.
All right, third album from the ultimate sex, drugs, and rock and roll band. I don't know. Did any of you guys watch the Dirt? Did you watch that?
Yes.
Man, that opening scene. Holy shit. I mean,
have you read the book?
No, I haven't. I should do.
You need to read the book. The book is a lot more detailed than the actual show is.
I think the people who are doing it are doing a Kiss one as well, I think. The same team, so that should be good.
Oh, that would be good. When I looked at this, if you watch the Bohemian Rhapsody and you watch this and you kind of go, this is the way it should be done. But what I loved about it, just very briefly, what I loved about it was when Mötley Crüe are turning their noses up at what the fuck Ozzy Osbourne's up to, he's hardcore, right? I mean, even they were like going, oh, that's even too much for us, right? But, what a legend Ozzy is, man. Anyway, you know what? I don't know if you guys did you look much at the sleeve cover of this. I thought it was quite cool. It's that quite masquerade masks. It's one's happy, one's sad. I quite like that. I think that's very, very
good cover.
Yeah, it's a very, very cool, very, very cool cover. Side by side, it's quite cool. That it's not for this audience, but Dr. Hook done a similar thing. But anyway, we won't go into that. Third album, or was it their? Sorry, first album back after Vince Neil had that accident in his sports car. Where he was charged for manslaughter.
Where Razzle died.
Yeah, Razzle. Yeah.
Yes,
Razzle
that's
from
right.
Alloy Rocks.
Correct. That's right. Very sad situation. Absolutely terrible. But it's the first album back, and it's dedicated to that guy. And so it should be, to be quite honest. Just look, we've all done things in our youth. I'll be honest. I remember I wasn't drunk, but I certainly took my dad's car out when I shouldn't have when I was a teenager. I wasn't drunk, but I definitely took the car out. We've all done silly things or whatever, but this was, different level. But the point I was getting at from the beginning was they're sex, drugs, rock and roll band. This is what happens. But anyway, this album. Let's get into the album a little bit. I like it. I don't think you guys might tell me different, but I don't think it was too well received by critics at the time. But for me, it's 1985 glam metal. It's Mötley Crüe. What's not to like? Sorry, Jam.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't well received. You're right, especially after Shout at the Devil was renowned as their best album, which was the one before. Production was a bit poor, I would say. It was a bit flat, and that the songwriting probably wasn't as good. It was a huge album for me. And there's some brilliant songs on it, to tell you the truth. City Boy Blues is a brilliant song. I love Home Sweet Home.
But Lee, come on. The lead single from it, Smoking in the Boys' Room, is...
Yeah, I like that.
It's all...
Oh, no, I like it. I like it. Yeah,
It's shite.
I liked Home Sweet Home. I thought it's a great song.
Louder than Hell, Use It or Lose It. Great tunes from this album. Don't get me wrong. The fact that I don't like its lead single doesn't really matter to me. To me, that's a shite single. I'd be interested to see what everyone else thinks in the comment section. I didn't like it. Better songs on the album, as I said. Use It or Lose It, Louder Than Hell, and the first track on it, City Boy Blues. Did you just say that, Lee? City Boy Blues?
Yeah, it's a great song.
Yeah. Good. Very, very good song. Very good song. First track on the album. Great way to open the album. Overall, not happy with the lead single, but happy overall with the album. And I think it's definitely glam metal from '85. What more do you want?
Yeah, it's definitely one of the weaker albums from the Crüe, but I still actually liked it. I thought it was a good album. Just a quick word on it from Mark and Brian.
I loved it at the time. It hasn't aged as well to me. It was a pretty big transition between the demonic imagery and the way they looked for Shout at the Devil to they come out with this one and they're wearing pink and silver and white and total different image. But overall, I mean, it was some good stuff on it. My favorite song was actually Tonight. We Need a Lover Tonight.
Yeah, I like that.
Some great lyrics there. 90,000 screaming watts, honey dripping from her pot. I mean, how could you? I mean, that's classic 80s there.
Oh, yeah.
Spectacular. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, brilliant. Brian, just a quick word on that, on the Crüe.
Yeah, like you said, he mentioned this is when Razzle was killed in the accident. Nikki Sixx's heroin addiction is starting to spiral out of control.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of finger pointing going on, but is it the production? Is it Nikki because, his heroin addiction? There's a lot of back and forth going there. And some things that, that I read in the past is like Mick Mars said, there was great things there. It just wasn't put together correctly. It could have been great. They were almost there, but it didn't happen. Nikki Sixx said he doesn't like the album. It's got some good grooves to it, but it could have been better.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut across you, Brian. I'm not having that from Rockstars. We've said it earlier on this live cast. I'm not having it from them. You can't keep revisionist history. Your what you've released. You signed off on it. You were happy with what you wrote, and you put it out as an album. Don't give me this shit where you go, oh, I didn't like it, and you're only doing that because you based it on reviews. You based it on the response of the fans. You put it out. You were happy at the time. I'm
sure they were happy at the time. I mean, I think Drugs played a massive part in it, and it is one of the weaker albums. There's no doubt about that. Shout at the Devil was a lot stronger. The debut album was a lot stronger. What came after it, Dr. Feelgood, was a lot stronger. So it was, out of them 4 albums, it's one of the weaker ones.
And Girls.
Well, yeah, and Girls. But but I just think that it was just, not every album can be as good as the fucking last album. Do you know what I mean? They're not all going to be as good.
I think they were trying to put too much polish on it. And with metal music, you don't need polish. You need actual grit and dirtiness there. Kind of like painting a trash can. You know what I mean? Yeah. Or trying to shine up a trash can. You need a little bit of grit, a little bit of dinginess in the music for it to seem to come together. Instead of a lot of prim and promise.
I agree. Let's go a couple of comments here. By the way, I think Mick Mars, he's a really underrated guitarist, but that's probably one of his poorest albums as well. I don't think he shone on that album, but all the shit that was going on in the band for me. But I still love the album though. So there you go. So Delana says, yes, this Mötley Crüe album was my jam back in the day. Wore it out. Still listen to it on trips. John Elvis says Hanoi Rocks. Now that was a great band. Red Devils. He's put Mark and a load of smiling faces. I think he agrees with you. And he's put Mark nails it every time. So whatever you said, he agrees with. I've had a couple of beers now, so I can't remember what you said. Anyway.
Cheers.
Anyway, Mötley Crüe's done. We're going to get on to our last vote of 4. This is a massive album for a lot of people here. Jam, you can go to the toilet or whatever you want to do now. Darren, you can do whatever you want to do. You can go to the toilet again if you want. But Striper and Soldiers Under Command. So May the 15th on Enigma. Michael Wagner producing this. Mark, you can lead on this, mate.
Well, I had first been introduced to Striper when the EP came out in '84, Yellow and Black Attack, and I liked it, but I wasn't exactly blown away by it. But I mentioned before we still have a local college radio station, but back in the day they had a metal show. I think it was on Tuesday nights from 9 o'clock to midnight. Anyway, they played the title track, Soldiers Under Command, shortly after this came out. And that opening riff just caught my attention right away. And as I listened to the lyrics, I didn't even know who it was yet. But when I heard the voice, I said, God, that's got to be Striper. And sure enough, at the end, he said, that's the new Striper track. Anyway, I went out the next day, bought the cassette. It's just another one that's been a part of the soundtrack of my life for a lot of years. If I'm being honest, looking back at it now, there is some cheese on that album.
Do wop 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 woo.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, I could do without that song. I mean, it starts off and says, "Stomp your feet and clap your hands, all you girls and all you guys," or something like that. I'm like, when I hear that, I cringe. But amongst the cheese, there is some really heavy, classic stuff on here. The title track, "The Rock That Makes Me Roll," is one of my all-time favorites. "Surrender." Both of the ballads are great. Their version of the Battle Hymn of the Republic gives me chills. I could do without a few songs on here, but
yeah, I agree.
They were heading in the right direction. They got better on the next album, but that'll always be a classic to me.
That ballad on there as well, I'm not too keen on, but there, like you said, I listened to "The Rock That Makes Me Roll" today, and it's just amazing. Yeah. And so Surrender as well, and Surrender. Yeah. Jonathan, I'm hoping I can get you to say something on this, mate. I'm hoping your internet's all right. Obviously, you got something to say about Striper, mate.
Yeah. This album was probably the thing that launched me into a music career. And it's because of where it hit me in my life, where I was at musically, where I was at personally. And I'm like, I want to do this. This is what I want to do with my life. And am I back? Am I still glitching?
Keep going.
Yeah, no.
I think I might be back.
Yeah.
Back?
You're back for now.
Okay, I'm back. All right, yeah. Well, anyway, this album was hugely inspirational for me as a musician. Their guitar tones were unlike anybody else of the era. Their guitar sounds, their guitar playing, they had some of the heaviest tones of any band in the genre. I mean, these are tones that could have been on a Metallica record, and it really started to show on this record. And when I heard that, I knew what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. I wanted to play guitar, and I wanted it to sound like that. So it definitely was inspirational for me, and I feel like it's their best album. All of their albums have had some
I think we got nearly all that out. We got nearly all of that out, Jonathan. Yeah, obviously a great inspiration. Just about, mate. You keep cutting out. That's all.
Yeah.
But,
I think I might be back. Am I back?
Yeah,
you're back for now.
Okay. Yeah, every one of their albums I feel like had a few weak songs on it, and this one has a couple that were kind of cheesy. A lot of the cheesy ballad stuff, that kind of stuff. But man, the powerful songs on this, "Surrender," the solo on that song is one of my favorite solos in history.
Oh yeah.
I actually copied that kind of trilling guitar sound. I did it on the first the Sacred Warrior album. I actually stole that move and used it on a song on the Sacred Warrior album I played with. But yeah, just the guitar playing is what. Really
which song was that? I got to go back and listen to it now.
Oh my God, I think the song was called "Fire from Heaven" or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's interesting. Is that tremolo arm trickery that Oz Fox does?
I use that little trick. So.
All right, okay. I love that solo, man. That's great. So Red Devils is saying Brian's comments on grit versus polished equals Ride the Lightning and the Black Album. Totally right there, I think. Metal Madness says great riffs on that Striper album. To hell with the devil. Also, my beef with that early Striper stuff is those sappy ass ballads. He's about right. I mean, they done some brilliant ballads. First Love was on that album, which is a fantastic ballad. Then that other ballad on there, which is
Together as
ballad?
One.
What is it? Sorry, mate.
Together as One.
Yeah, I didn't like that at all. But yeah, you're totally right. I mean, that's like a 70%, 10 out of 10 album, innit? You know, it's like, and then there's some songs on there I could do without. But obviously, a great inspiration to Jonathan. Totally.
As we said, Red Devils is smashing that comment section tonight.
He is, mate. I'm trying to keep up with him.
He's great tonight.
Metal Madness says that Messer dual recto tone is unmistakable on those early Striper albums. Fucking hell, there's some like technical stuff coming out there. I don't know what the fuck he's talking about, but it sounds very good. Brian, just a quick word on the Striper, mate.
Oh, I remember getting this when I was a kid, taking it in my room and cranking it up. And of course, my dad thought it was the regular metal that I was listening to. And Mark knows my dad and how they were when we were growing up, you know, dressing up as kids and jumping around on the bed. Dad comes in there. He says, "Turn that devil music down." I said, "I got you this time, Daddy. I got you this time." But great album. Like I said, "Soldiers Under Command" is my favorite song on here. It just totally heavy as you want to get. Love the album. Like Mark said, it's part of my history growing up.
I think that song, I said this before on one of Lee's shows, I think the song Soldiers Under Command was their true mission statement. It really put their stamp on what they were all about. If anybody's never heard Striper and wants to know what Striper's about, listen to that one song and you'll know what they're about.
Yeah, it's a great song, man. Great album. Absolutely brilliant album. Guys, we've done the 4 votes. We're going to move on to the 2 albums that got 5 votes. So 5 of us voted for these. I've noticed that Jam and Darren have been sitting there very quiet, mainly because they haven't voted for the last few albums. So we're going to let them ramble on about this one. So we'll start with Darren, then we go on to Jam. They can have the main voice on this one, and maybe the rest of us can have a little say. But this surprised me, man. 5 votes really surprised me because this is not known as one of the Kiss albums that everyone loves. It's Asylum is not the album cover there.
Oh no! I need to talk about that sleeve cover. No, I need to talk about that sleeve cover. Those I didn't know you'd have it, Jam. Oh man, those 4. Can we flip it around, Jam, just for 1 second, mate? Cheers. Those 4 cartoon faces, Lee. I just love it. I think this is possibly Kiss's best album cover. I think. I think. Oh, Mark's not agreeing with that, but I'm not going to.
I put it down as their worst.
Of course you have. Of fucking course you have, right? No, I love that sleeve cover because this is an unmasked era of Kiss. I know, Lee, you're a bit of a fan of the Kiss without the makeup.
Yeah.
I just those just to take the sleeve to begin. I think it's an iconic cover. I just think that's great. I think I didn't know it until today. I knew the album cover and I love the album cover. But just like looked a little bit into it today. I think the lipstick represents the
solo albums from 78.
The solo albums from 78. Yeah, that's really interesting. I didn't know that till today. I knew the album cover. I didn't know that till today. That is so good. The opening track, King of the Mountain. What a great song to open an album. You know, I always love it when an album kind of either hits me with generally I like it when it hit me with a belter. Just hit me with it. And King of the Mountain, I think, is a great opener for the album. Only single from it, Tears Are Falling. Sometimes Kiss have this ability to pick a piss-poor single or a piss-poor song as a single from their album. They didn't do it this time. I think the only single from this album is quite cool. I like it. And I've been critical, as we know, even on my channel, Gene Simmons at times as the lead vocalist at points with Kiss. Generally, I'm a Paul Stanley fan in general for their lead singer on songs. But fuck me, Gene Simmons with Secretly Cruel. Yeah. What a song. Oh, my God. His vocal on that is just so great. Remember, it's the unmasked era of Kiss. Gene didn't look great when the makeup came off.
Can we do a little re-impression of him again?
Yeah. Gene, I think suffered the most because when the makeup came off, he wasn't. He's not. Look, he's not the best looking man. But Jesus is. Let's get down to it. What it's really about, it doesn't matter about the aesthetics. What it's about is about the music, and that song "Secretly Cruel" was on loop all week this week for me. I think it's great. John, what's your take?
Yeah, I mean, this is the non-makeup time. They're obviously trying to cash in on the hair metal scene, or glam metal as we called it back in the day, and and why not? I mean, for me, it's a very good album. It's probably we all like Creatures of the Night. I think it's probably a stronger album, and obviously Lick It Up and Animalize as well, of course. So this is a few in, isn't it? I guess. But for me, I mean, one of my favourite songs is All Night, which is the last track on the album. I mean, that's pretty good, isn't it? When one of your favourite songs is the last track of the album, because usually it peter out. But for me, it's Who Wants to Be Lonely, which is one I've sort of forgotten about. And these guys introduced reminded me about it. It's just, what a song that is. Brilliant. Yeah. I'm surprised they didn't release that as a single. So, no, great album. Yeah, no Kiss albums are masterpieces, let's face it. But as a Kiss album goes, it's
Jan, before we move off it, quick one, mate, because clearly Mark doesn't like the cover. Where are you at with the cover?
I think it's right.
I think it's great. That's a poster. To me, that is a poster on a wall. I just think that's
better than Lick It Up. Lick It Up cover's boring. That's a lot better than that.
Yeah, terrible cover. Lick It Up.
I love that cover. I like that cover. Lick It Up.
The reason I don't like the cover, I didn't think it had anything to do with the title. I thought they should have them in straight jackets or something referencing the title. I just didn't, it's just kind of a generic cartoonish picture. And like you guys, I didn't realize the lipstick thing till I was researching yesterday. The color of their lipstick was the colors that coincided with the original solo albums, even though Bruce and Eric weren't in the band.
I was going to say,
yeah, Bruce has the blue lipstick that Ace had blue on his cover, and Peter had green on his cover, so they put green lipstick on Eric Carr. I don't really know what the purpose of that was, but I just thought the cover should have represented the title in some way, straight jackets or.
So, Mark, are you basing it purely off the fact that it didn't match the title? By the way, I agree with you. It doesn't really match up to the title. If you're going to name your album Asylum, you're right. Give it that kind of straight jacket kind of thing.
At least on the back. On the back.
Yeah, agree. The back, they're just standing there anyway. They could have had them in straight jackets or something.
But do you not think it looks cool? Do you not think the album itself? To me, that looks like a poster. To me, I'd put that up on a wall.
I mean, it's very colorful, like everything in the mid '80s was. I get that. The Lick It Up cover was very bland as well, but that was just kind of that was their first actual photo without makeup, and that was kind of okay, here we are, basically, without any bells and whistles, so to speak. So I kind of get why they did that for Lick It Up, but other than that, most of the other covers had, some sort of meaning or relevance to the title in some way. Or,
I mean, Gene Simmons. Let's get back to him without makeup for a quick second. Obviously, before we've all met our love of our lives at the moment, we obviously, we had a few experiences with women, and they look completely different in the morning. Imagine waking up to someone who looked like Gene Simmons without makeup.
Gene Simmons looked better with the makeup.
Exactly. I think I quite like him like that, but not like in Lick It Up video.
I was just going to say as well, as far as the music, I think this album, to put it in your terms, your and Jam's terms, is half killer, half filler.
Yeah.
I love about 6 songs on here. The other 4, take them or leave them.
Yeah, I agree.
The good ones are really strong, but there is some filler on here, which most of the Kiss albums.
I was surprised at the 5 votes, though. Brian, if you want to give a couple of sentences, you voted for that as well.
Well, I'm the same as Mark. It's killer and filler, about the same amount. And as far as Kiss expanding into the glam metal scene, I mean, you're talking about the corporation that just happens to be a band. They'll put their brand on anything and pretty much try anything. Back in '79, they experimented, on Dynasty with the disco. So it was only inevitable for them to, expand into the metal of the time.
Oh, I agree.
They became followers more so than leaders during that time.
Yeah. Just before we get on to the last album, I just want to read a couple of comments. Delana says, "How did Darren not know Jam would have that cover?" She is right, Darren. And Red Devil says, "Lick it up, Darren. Mark is correct. Obviously about the album cover." I like that. That's good. I like that. That's very, very good.
I like that.
Yeah, I agree. That's brilliant. Okay. Seeing as I don't really lead on any of these, can I talk about the last album for a little while?
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
So the 5 votes, I had Kiss and this one to choose from, and I wanted to add this one as the last album because I just think it's absolutely fantastic. Has anyone got the vinyl?
No, I don't have the vinyl, but I got.
Can you put it closer then? I mean, look at that. An amazing cover. I mean, we talk about album covers. Look at that.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, that's one of my favourite album covers for sure. Apart from what's on the album cover, this is easily for me the best album that Ratt brought out.
Yes,
definitely.
And I know a lot of people say that Out of the Cellar is the pinnacle of Ratt, but if you actually look at the track listing on this album, if you look at Out of the Cellar, you've got a couple of tracks for me that are a bit throwaway. She Wants Money. I'm Insane. I'm not that mad over. But if you actually look at every one of those tracks on that Invasion of Your Privacy, from beginning to end, it's an amazing, strong album.
Yes.
I just think it's. You know what? I didn't actually mention this I don't think I mentioned this in my Desert Island albums, but I think it could make it. I think every track is a brilliant.
I think I brought it up in that one because I remember saying after you got tired of listening to the music, you could always do other things with the album.
For the cover.
Yeah. I mean, from You're in Love to Dangerous but Worth the Risk, every track, lay it down, man.
Yeah.
Lay it down. And one of my favourite tracks on the album, which doesn't always get the love it should do, What You Give Is What You Get.
Yeah.
I mean, that is just an amazing song. I've noticed on the album, there's no I just mentioned the fast tracks that were fast for Ratt on Out of the Cellar. There's nothing really like that on Invasion of Your Privacy. It's very medium paced throughout the album. Even as close to a ballad, we've got Closer to My Heart's on there.
You Should Know by Now. That's a song.
You Should Know by Now. That's a brilliant song.
Yeah.
There's nothing on that album that is weak. I just think it's fantastic. And what an amazing different voice Stephen Pearcy had compared to all those singers at the time.
Well, he's like Blackie Lawless. Again, there's no other else that sounds like Stephen Pearcy, is there?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love it. That's my feelings on the album. I just think it sounds as fresh to me today. I can listen to that album all day long. I just think it's absolutely brilliant. The guitar work from Warren DeMartini and who's the guy who passed away?
Robin Crosby.
Robin Crosby is amazing. I'll tell you what I love about this band. Their backing vocals, which are a bit strange, they sort of repeat some of the lines that Stephen Pearcy says after he's finished them, and in a high, and it's totally different. They had a totally different sound than any other band, and they were a latecomer as well to that scene, getting a record deal compared to all them other bands that got a record deal first. They were latecomers, but man, I'm so glad they did get it, because that album is just absolutely fantastic. I think I've said enough on that. I think, but Dommy, before we move on to you guys, have a quick word on that. Says best Ratt album for me too. Delana says I have that vinyl. I'm holding it up. Well, Delana, I can't see it, can I?
Dommy is a huge Ratt fan. I mean, I told you before. She sent me a tune on a Friday in work. Big fan of Ratt, Dommy.
Yeah, and Delana as well. She says brilliant album. You all chose the best. So I really wanted to leave that album till last. I mean, I look back at my 1985 best albums of the year. I didn't have it at my best albums of the year, but I think times have changed even from last year, and I think I would have it as my top album from 1985 for sure. But before we move on to the honourable mentions, do you guys want a quick word? The only person that didn't vote for this was Darren, but Darren, you need to review this album.
That's two. He needs to this and Loudness. He needs to review.
Loudness might be a little too heavy for Darren, but I think he'd like a Ratt.
Jonathan, I seem to get. We have you at the moment. They give you a quick. You voted for this album. Give us a quick. Too many beers. A couple of quick words on this album, mate. Are you there?
Oh, we lost him.
We lost him again.
Oh man. Oh, he's in Mexico, by the way, everyone.
Am I here?
There he is.
Am I back?
Give it a quick.
Tell me I'm back.
You're back.
I'm back. Am I back? I'm back. Okay. Let me get this out and see if anybody. Let me see if anybody agrees with me. If there was one guitar riff to signify that whole era, it's "Lay It Down." The opening line to "Lay It Down" is the one guitar riff. If you only had one to say, okay, what was this era about? Give me a guitar riff. It's that.
That's what I was going to say. "Lay It Down" is probably a perfect metal song or hard rock song. It is.
I agree. Fully agree.
Yeah.
And probably "You're in Love" probably was the best video of that era.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was featured a couple of times actually, Lee. That song was featured in Cobra Kai season 3, just on Netflix. Now, by the way, I love that series, and it was in that. So anyway,
oh man, it's such a great song. Just a quick one. Go around the houses for this Ratt album. Brian, what you got to say about this one, mate?
I tried to get Dangerous but Worth the Risk played at my wedding, but it was voted out 1-1.
That's great.
Oh, brilliant.
I assume by your wife and not you.
Yes, exactly.
Mark.
Yeah, I'll echo what you said. There's not a bad song on it. It's one of the few 10 out of 10 albums I can think of. Yeah. There's really not a bad throwaway song on it, and it's one of those albums I put it in now, and I'm instantly transported back.
Oh yeah.
To 1985. I remember riding around in my 1968 Olds Cutlass with the cassette just turned up to 11, just blasting. Every time I hear these songs now, I feel like I'm 16 again.
Even the songs that I remember at the time were looked at as not so strong, like "Never Use Love," and they're fucking brilliant, man.
Yeah, they've aged very well.
Yeah, I agree. Who's not had a word about Ratt? Have you had a word, Jam?
I'll just echo what Jonathan said. I say "Lay It Down" is still one of them songs I play every single week. Whenever I'm in and I play music on, that's one of the songs that goes up as loud as possible.
It's a quality song. It's a quality song. Right, okay, guys.
I mean, honestly, it's some of the best guitar playing of that era.
I agree.
Just for comparison's sake, if you put that next to Theater of Pain, Mötley Crüe, there's no comparison.
I agree.
If you put them on scales, it's going to completely sink. You know, it's like it is the winner hands down, you know, but they never, I don't think they had the image that Mötley Crüe had to propel them to they were a platinum selling band, obviously, but they didn't get that mega status that Mötley Crüe had. But far superior band, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, right. We're going to move on to honourable mentions quickly. Right, you guys can choose this. You can either do one honourable mention and talk about it for a little while, or you could just name your albums very short. So I'll go with first of all, Jonathan. Let's see if we can get you, because I can hear you at the moment. You got any honourable mentions, mate?
I know. I think we covered them.
Oh, no.
No, that's cool. That's cool. No, that's cool, mate. That's cool. Brian, what you got, mate?
Slayer, Hell Awaits. Mark and I, we grew up listening to the same music, where his path led him, and he stayed more on traditional metal, and I kind of veered off into thrash and some of the extreme stuff. This was the benchmark for extreme metal in the future, because Hell Awaits was covered by several bands on tribute albums, and one by Cradle of Filth from the UK. They covered it, and I listen to them sometimes. So I just think it's a great album, very influential for the future.
No, cool. Slayer. I mean, I thought I did actually message Jam, and I thought Jam might ask for Slayer, but he obviously, that album itself didn't make his list. So I thought he was actually going to make the list, but he didn't.
Yeah, I thought Jam was going to vote for it too.
No, yeah, right. I'm more of a Raining Blood onwards, really.
Right, Jam. Let's see you want to talk about one in particular? Or
I'll be quick. I've got about 5. So
okay.
First one's Rocky's 4 soundtrack. This is actually the best of Rocky, but
see, Darren, you could have chose that, and
I would have voted for that if I'd thought about it.
I never think of soundtracks with this stuff, but fuck me, what a soundtrack! Robert Tepper.
Yes. So yeah, Burning Heart, Hearts Will Find. Obviously, No Easy Way Out, which is one of the best.
Oh, stop it! Don't stop.
Halloween, first proper album, Walls of Jericho. Pretty much thrash album though, compared to the bloody hell's it called, power metal that they become known for, but very good still. I mean, the song on here, How Many Tears, what a fantastic song that is, if you've never heard it. Brilliant. Marillion, Misplaced Childhood, English band, Kaylee, Lavender, Heart and Loathing, they're really good. Misfits, this is a sort of a trick, well, it's not, it came out in 85, but it's a compilation, but they're a punk band, so they're all singles. But I mean, I love Misfits, love Danzig, and then finally, I thought another one Darren might have gone for. It's not really heavy rock, but Brothers in Arms.
Oh,
1985, Dire Straits.
Check you out, unbelievable.
Okay, cheers for that, mate. Mark Cloer, what you got, mate, on your?
I'll start off with the debut Lizzie Borden, Love You to Pieces. My boys from Hawaii, Sacred Right, The Ritual, the debut Rough Cut album. Love Rough Cut, the original stuff with Paul Di'Anno. Twisted Sister.
Do you mean Paul Shortino?
Yeah. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, I've never heard of him in that.
I'm sorry. Yeah, Shortino, not Di'Anno. Twisted Sister, Come Out and Play. This album gets a lot of flack, but overall, I like it. I'll never forget the video for Leader of the Pack came on TV one day, and my mom was in the room, and she said, "Oh, that's one of my songs." And I just remember thinking, "Oh, what fresh hell is this?"
I hate that song. It's shit.
And then the debut White Lion album, Fight to Survive.
Great. Cheers, mate. Thank you very much. Darren, got any, mate?
Oh, here's where my night begins.
He's serious.
I've sat here for 3 hours listening to all your bullshit. Now begin, right?
You know, earlier on when Darren left the show, that's just about to happen now as well.
Sorry about that. My battery went, by the way. I didn't even. I just got it. Anyway, good Canadian rocker. Couple of I'll just rattle through them. Aldo Nova, good Canadian rocker. His album
Great
Twitch.
album.
He had a great song on that. Red Devils, if he's still in the chat, will know it. It's a great song called Rumors of You, which I really like that song from that album, Twitch. Phil Collins, No Jacket Required. I can see you all falling asleep. Mike and the Mechanics, their self-titled album. So Phil went off and made his personal album, and Mike Rutherford made his album. Mike and the Mechanics, their self-titled album. Tears for Fears, we mentioned it earlier. Songs from the Big Chair. Big fan of that album. Can't believe none of you fuckers voted for it. Kenny Loggins, Fox Humming. What the hell is wrong with you people? Right? Night Ranger, 7 Wishes was one I threw in as well.
I like them now.
Yeah,
very good.
Heart, self-titled record. Big fan of that. Oh, this one I've got it here. Mark mentioned this band before. Mentioned this artist before. I think he wrote New York Groove for
Ace Frehley.
Ace Frehley, yeah. Russ Ballard, The Fire Still Burns. Lads, listen, maybe not Jam. Lads, listen to that album. Listen to that album. What an album. Great songwriter. Tried it on his own. Didn't quite go anywhere for him, but terrific songwriter, terrific musician, terrific vocalist. Russ Ballard. And the last one I go for is Lover Boy, Loving Every Minute of It. That record, that lead single from that, Loving Every Minute of It. Great single.
I like that song.
Great band, Lover Boy. And they were kind of coming towards the end of their peak at this point. But Lover Boy, Loving Every Minute of It. And if I could have, I would have made a whole fucking show out of all of them albums.
You've got your own channel.
Yeah, exactly. No, thanks, mate. That's brilliant. Just before I mention mine, just a quick few comments. So, Red Devil says quality show, man. Loves it. Delana, if I don't say Goen, Strange Animal, I will have to relinquish my Styx Queen title. He was an amazing addition to the band. This album is pretty great. Thanks, Delana. And she also says Night Ranger. Yes, Darren. You mentioned Night Ranger. Metal Madness, no doubt the two guitarists in Ratt were the killer guitar duo of that era. And Red Devil says Rumors, my claim to fame in our group.
Oh, yeah, it is her. It is his claim to fame. Yeah, absolutely. Great song.
Right, just a quick one.
I thought it too. I thought it too that I'd forgotten. King Cobra, Ready to Strike, which I thought that was the most underrated metal band of that era. They were great musicians, great album. And Yngwie Malmsteen, Marching Out. Those two are mine.
Oh, yeah. No worries, mate. Thank you. I don't know. Malmsteen's got a new album out. I've never got into him. I don't know. I might have to listen to it to see what it's like. He's got a new album out. I know that. Okay, I'm a bit disappointed in some of these. You guys didn't fucking choose them, to tell you the truth. But I'll just mention them. So it's Shy, Brave the Storm, British band. I think they're from Birmingham. This is their second album. That was a great album. Tony Mills, the late Tony Mills, passed away. He sang for TNT as well for a little while. Y&T had 2 albums out. Why the fuck don't any of you like Y&T?
I like one song.
Oh, well, we got Open Fire, their live album, which was great, and Down for the Count, my favourite album from them. We had Icon, Night of the Crime, one of the most underrated albums of that time. Brilliant album. Accept, Metal Heart, their best album. What the fuck?
A lot of anger on that side of the screen.
We mentioned live after death earlier, didn't we? Live album. What about Scorpions Worldwide Live?
Yeah.
Oh man, I mean, come on. And you lot might not know this, but I don't know. But Coney Hatch, I sent this song to you and all, Darren. Friction, the album Friction from Coney Hatch. Oh man, what a great album that was.
Good choice, yeah, absolutely, mate.
So that's it, guys. I've loved it. I've actually had really good fun tonight. I've been slurring a bit as well at the end and forgetting things, but I've absolutely loved it. 1984's next. I hope you're all going to come back.
If invited.
I've just got to. Yeah, absolutely. I've just got to go and mop up my bathroom floor after laughing at Mark.
Yeah. Well, at least you ain't got a bat to blimmin' get rid of. You know what I mean? That's so you got a bat to clean up. Anyway, listen, guys. Thank you very much. Thanks for everyone who's been commenting. The usual people. It's been really enjoyable. And guys,
top bunch of people in the comments.
Absolutely. No Gina tonight, huh?
No Gina tonight. I don't know where she is. I don't know. It's weird.
She'll watch the replay, I'm sure.
Yeah, exactly. Guys, I'll see you next time. Thanks for joining. If you want to stay on for a chat afterwards, yeah?
Stay on for a chat.
See you later, guys.
Mark.